Listen, if everybody was tapping me on my head and saying I'm the best, it would
Yeah,
never happen. It would never happen because I always say to artists, you need to be hungry,
right,
but
of
not
course.
hungry for the food. Food is a different. This is different kind of
This
hunger.
is different hunger, yeah, of course.
This is different kind of hunger. Proving people wrong, proving everybody wrong. This is a different hunger.
The following conversation is with Darko Markovic, also popularly known as DARMAR. Darko is a Serbian hard surface designer who has worked on extremely high profile projects such as Matrix Resurrections, Black Adam, Star Trek Picard, and music video visuals for bands like Coldplay. But one of his biggest creative pursuits have been his long-term Serbian sci-fi universe known as Insight 44 that he has been developing for the past 8 years. Darko is the man to talk to if you want to know how your life and your internal as well as external experiences help you in telling a story. We discuss multiple topics ranging from education, current art traits and trends, role of adversities in developing your vision, just to name a few. The one big takeaway that I had from this conversation is that honesty towards others as well as to yourself will forever pave new paths for you and help you in overcoming big challenges. I am your host, Ayan DC, and you are listening to Art Chats. Let's go. Oh, that's so much better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Crystal
professional
clear.
mic. Yeah.
Perfect. This is from your podcasting days, is it?
Yeah, I haven't been podcasting for a long time, so I don't have the normal microphone. It's literally in the dust there.
I see. Because I remember, I think the first time when I found out that you were podcasting was when you did the interview with Ian Spriggs. And then I
Yeah,
found out that you have so many episodes and they were quite fascinating. So do you have plans of coming back to it at some point?
I don't think so, to be honest. See, I will be very, very blunt. I always say it like that. There is too many podcasts today and
That's
not too
true.
many good artists. That's the problem because we heard all the stories. Even
Mm-hmm.
I'm boring to myself when I hear my story all over again. So that's the thing. It's oversaturated. I mean, it brings
Right.
you good stuff. I got Wacom deal with it. I got BenQ deal with it. Speaking
Mm-hmm.
about the business side, but
Right.
it became, I was like, I should invest this time in something else because it's a little bit for me. It became, and that was now it's getting desaturated again now. But that was when the Corona started. There was like
Right.
50 podcasts at the same time, and I was like, this is not working.
No, I agree with you because I think what happened with the whole pandemic scene is that in order to keep everyone at home, I think the artist community kind of came together to produce more and more work after a point so that everyone remains entertained, they're still learning. But then you hit a very, very strong saturation point. And then it's the same thing about, okay, what tools do you use? And that conversation becomes very repetitive. The point where I also kind of stopped after a while when I was doing it on Clubhouse and then I'm trying to resume it back again. It's mostly because I realized, okay, now I think the foundational conversations have been met where everyone knows okay how to technically become more proficient and stuff like that, but I feel that like we can kind of get into a bit more of the how your life and how your experiences kind of lead you to build your own unique voices, which is where you become very interesting as a guest to me because your journey with your IP, which I want to discuss with you. It says a lot more about you. So I am firstly very excited to talk to you
Thank you,
after
thank
so
you.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. It is necessary, absolutely, to have conversations that are not only about how you do things.
Right.
And there is a problem with the industry. I've been in this industry for last 8 years, nine almost,
Right.
and everybody is afraid in this industry to say something that would insult somebody else.
Mm.
And I think that's a road to hell, literally,
That's true.
because everybody is afraid. If I say something too harsh, for example, doesn't matter about women, about nationality, women especially today, because
Right.
that's the main thing now. And everybody gets afraid not to talk about it because they immediately think like they're insulting it. And one of the things that is the main thing is an artist. To be an artist is to question things. It's to
I
question
agree.
them.
I agree.
If you don't question them, you are not gonna evolve. You're gonna be like everybody else. So even those subjects like health, mental health, women rights, you need to question them. Not go with the flow. You need to question them. Is this okay? Is it okay that the woman steps over my head and I say it's okay? Is it okay that the guy is rude to women? Is there a situation? I'm using women because that's the main focus privilege in last 2 years.
It triggers quite a few people when you suddenly say something a very strong opinion, and it becomes very controversial immediately, because I think by nature people have become very sensitive towards like harsher topics, but it has its own space, right? Like, it's important to have these conversations because these have the power to change things for everyone over a certain period of time. Yeah. I mean, as I said, like, this is not like an interview thing. It's mostly a conversation, because even with, I'm like someone who, so I'll go back to the point where we met back in THU back in, I think, 2018. And my friend was there with me who got really excited to see you. And I've never been a hard surface guy, but I've always loved like designers and talking to them and listening how they've become who they've become. So through him, I kind of found out about you a lot more. And in preparation for this conversation as well, I kind of went through a lot of your talks that you gave with through your YouTube channel and everything. And it really intrigued how much, like, you're quite a thoughtful human being, which really makes it really great to have you because I think the conversation becomes a lot more insightful by the end of it. So thank you for being here. And for the few people who do not know you, would you like to give kind of a brief intro about yourself, about your work?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. But second, I always become a little bit nervous when I need to tell something about myself. It's like always like I'm showing off. And for me, it's always a little bit uncomfortable because I never know how people will react to it. In short, I come from Serbia, Belgrade. I was the first Lamborghini scholarship guy that got in Italy, Lamborghini scholarship, and went to design cars. My career died because of my passport. That's a short story. I was kicked literally home. And after that, I had a huge crash. And I started to think what I'm going to do with my life. I started concept art because I had no other choice. I had to start freelance. So I had to go a different route than everybody else, from a studio to freelance. And I started freelance. And I always loved 3D. Even I started first with 3D, then I moved to 2D, which is very strange with me. Then I moved from 2D to sketching, and I balanced those things. And eventually I've developed perfect personal style where I balance them all. And eventually won ArtStation, won many awards, got seen by clients. So far it has been going good. In the last 3 or 4 years, worked with Sony, with Coldplay, with Matrix, with Double Negative, list goes on. And I'm mostly known for the hard surface design. I design it both in 2D and 3D, but I also do characters, I do environments, I do mostly everything, because I did one thing that most artists don't do, and that's I questioned everything. How does it work and how do I overlap it? And that happened because I started my personal project Inside 44. It's one of the images behind me. And that Inside 44 made me really develop skills, because I had to learn all the time something new to finish this IP and to make it interesting and to look good. So it has been a messy ride. It has been a messy introduction, but that's shortly about me.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, Inside 44, I have been kind of following you for a while and have been seeing you kind of speak about how this project even came into place. And after kind of researching a little bit, I realized that the necessity for telling your own story comes from a very difficult moment in your life where you came back to Belgrade from Italy. So I just want to know more about the background of starting this IP, the need to tell your story, representing your culture, where you come from, and how it all began for you. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit complicated, but I will try to make it short as I can. In short, when I was kicked back to Serbia because of third world country passport, I really had a crash. It was a mental crash and physical. My body gave up on me. I was working a lot, insane hours. I was 27, 28 back then. And it gave up on me. And then, as it goes in life, when there is a cold water, rarely people want to swim in a cold water. But what happened to me was that I was in that period, and I was left by all friends, and my girlfriend even left me, and everybody. And it was a devastating moment for me because I was in a situation that is very uncomfortable. Had zero money, had to go back to live with my parents. But it was even more because it was a mental thing where I crashed. I thought I was invincible, and I worked 17 hours a day. I thought I can do anything. Lamborghini scholarship. I thought everything's gonna be smooth. Me in Italy, drinking wine and eating caviar and stuff like that. But eventually, life slapped me and moved me to other side. In short, life was always telling me not to go in their direction, but I was too stubborn to listen to it.
Right.
And then when I was recovering, I started to go to certain woman, which was, she's a doctor, real doctor, but she does Ayurveda, which comes from your country. She does spiritual healing and stuff like that. And then I started to learn about myself more, and I was in a desperate situation, so I had to believe in it. I always say it like that. I had to believe it. I had no choice because doctors had no answers for me. Western doctors was always, they give me medicine and that's it. And here I had to figure out who I am. How did I get to this position? Why did it happen? Which bad steps I made? Because it's always the steps that we made and not that others, somebody made them, but we made them. Our karma, our destiny, however you want to call it.
Right.
And I started to make a book when I was in really unhappy place. In Zagreb, I met Dan Lovisi, and he asked me, why you don't make a book? I think he did it just bluntly to ask me why I don't make a book, but eventually it led to 8 years of me working on IP as Inside 44.
Right, and Dan is one of those people who's like he's kind of the poster boy for any creative beginning their own IP, right? Like Last Man Standing has been like one of the living proof as to what it means to tell your own story, you know. Artists like taking back control from the industry and doing their own thing, you know, building their own IP, kind of taking it to different producers. Even that's quite the journey. I think I wanted to know about that part as well. So, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, then remember that he did it in 2006, which was completely different time, much harder to do back then, because much harder because it was even more closed doors and everything. He made it. He made Paramount, bought it later and so on. I saw that he's making a new book now. I see that he is happy quite. He moved from USA to other place. And for me, he was, when I was a kid, I always dreamt. And I think that every person needs, especially artists, to dream.
Of course.
Because if you don't have dreams, you don't have life. And it's simple as that. Money comes and goes. You can earn a lot of money, but the question is, what does your soul want to tell to this world? And many people are afraid to tell their stories. I wanted to tell my story, what happened. And I started to work on Inside 44. It started first as racing. And then I said, I will translate completely my story. Belgrade, my hometown, Serbia, Serbians, Croatia, Yugoslavia, ex-war, and everything that happened to me, my diabetes, bombing, crash, and I took it all and I started to form a science fiction IP. And when I started, I don't know, to be honest, now when I finished the book literally 1 month ago, so it's still not published, but I literally finished all 3 of them, like 1 month ago. And it has been 8 years, 7 days work on it. 8 years beside my real job, real job, the one that brings money, brings money. 8 years, and it's now 3 books: Inside 44 Characters, Inside 44 Vehicles Max, Inside 44 Story. I was a little bit crazy to think that I can do it all. I don't know what was happening inside of me to think that I can do it all now when I look behind, honestly, because now when I look behind it, it's like 100 artists worked on it, plus a writer, plus I don't know what. And honestly, I'll tell to every artist when they're afraid and they say, I don't know if I can do it. And I always tell them, you need to be a little bit crazy, because you have to have dreams that are crazy. If they are not crazy, they are not fun. And this book developed my style, and it developed my my art in such a high level. I could never do it with work only, because I had to ask to do so many things, so many programs, so many. It was 8 years out of constantly in my most uncomfortable zone.
Right.
And You have to be a little bit insane to do that now when I look at it 8 years, because there have been times when I had anxiety from it. Literally, my heart is pounding and I'm still doing it because I wanted to prove everybody wrong. Why did you kick me out of Italy? I can show you that you are wrong, and I'm gonna do that eventually. So I'm at peace now because my career is good. Mm-hmm. I think but that was why I wanted to show we Serbians are not bad. I'm not bad. Why did you kick me like a trash? So that's a short story.
Interesting. So I agree with you when you say that we need to be a little bit more crazy, but also I wanted to know, like, because a lot of the work that you've done behind Inside 44, that comes from the need to prove to yourself that adversity and hard times actually build you to take stronger steps. So can you speak to that aspect of it? Because when it comes to your life taking bad turns where people kind of give up on you, I even while looking your story up, I found out that like the people that you were working with in Italy, they kind of backstabbed you in a certain way. That also has an impact on people leaving you behind, your health itself. So all of those brought you to a point, right, where things became so difficult. You just needed a new step to just give your sense that a sense of hope that things can be different if you just do things in a certain way. So could you speak to the role of like adversities or like difficult times in for creativity, you know?
Difficult artists always create the best art. There is no question about it, because that's when the soul speaks. You know that any project that had incredible amount of money, it always failed because it had no soul. The only one that I know that succeeded, and you can count them on fingers, that the guys were so passionate and crazy about them that they made adversity, even though they had billions to make. For example, Avatar, billions on account, but the James Cameron likes so much that project that he literally creates adversity by himself so he can push his creative limits, literally. Exactly. I mean, having 1 billion is insane amount, and
that's think he needed crazy amount, yeah.
Yeah, but I think for his ideas you need 20 billion, and he is always pushing the envelope, you know. And he because when you are in adversity, your soul starts speaking. You start to question things. You don't just go to the job to pick the money. You start to ask yourself, what do I want to do? I'm in a shitty position. I'm in a bad position. Where do I want to go with my life? I remember when I was in university, this is one of the scenes I remember very clearly, that I didn't understand that it wasn't adversity. It was adversity, but it showed the character, and it will, in the future, it will be really good for me. There was a professor in Italy that really didn't like me. Okay. And he was just looking for a situation to attack me. For 2 months, he was crossing my paintings, literally. There is a reason why he didn't like me. He didn't like me because 3 months before that, Serbian hooligans destroyed the stadium in Italy. And they destroyed it, and it was his favorite team. And all of a sudden, I'm coming. And there was other stuff also. Right. So he didn't like me. And he attacked me physically in front of the whole classroom.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay.
In front of the whole classroom. And listen now. Why did he attack me? Because I did one thing that he never expected. We were yelling. We were kids. I was 22 back then, and 23. And we were yelling in the classroom. And he comes, and he knows that I was the loudest that day, because we were celebrating something. It was a birthday of mine, it doesn't matter. And he knew, and he was looking for a moment to sabotage me. And I will always remember that he comes and he says, whoever was the loudest, if you don't say, we threw the paper planes. Who threw the paper planes? If you don't say it, I will lower the mark for everybody. I will lower the mark for everybody. And there is 20 of us in the classroom, 20 of us. I couldn't stand it, even though there was 8 of us, everybody was throwing airplanes, but let's say I was the loudest because my birthday, of course I was the loudest. And it shouldn't bother him, but it bothered him. I mean, it was personal. And he says, who did it? And I get up and I say, I. And he says, come to the table. And I come to the table and he says, I will lower you 2 marks. And I say, okay, no problem. It was my duty to protect the people that are behind me. It was my duty to protect them, because if I'm the loudest, I need to stand up for myself as a man. I need to stand up. I was raised like that. I'm a Belgradian. Here are really tough people. And I said me, and he attacks me. It becomes physical. I drop him over the table. To cut the story short, it was a huge adversity for me because for next 4 months, he was doing everything for me to push me to leave the university so I don't report him. I never reported him. And to cut the story short, that left a mark on me. That left a mark on me because he was 20 years older than me. I was a kid. I couldn't believe that the professor attacked me. I lost many kilos those 4 months. He never, and to cut the story short, I never left the university. I finished it with great marks, with 15 kilos less. But why am I telling you this story? Because when the time arrived for people to get jobs, I was kicked out first because of the passport. And then I had problems to find a job. 7 of other people got the job through him because he was now buying them. He was buying them now. And we were on the gathering 3 years later. We were gathering in Italy. We were gathering, and I tell them, you remember when I threw him over the table? And nobody remembers. Nobody remembers what happened. Okay. All 7 don't remember. And that was my character, because in adversities, you see the character of a person. You see the character of the person. That character maybe suffered in the environment like that, but it blossomed in a good environment. It blossomed in every good environment when I reach to the higher levels where normal people act, where they don't attack you, where they discuss things. I blossomed. My career blossomed. Point of the story: adversity in some stage, in some areas, will lead to a bliss in other areas. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. It doesn't go anything else.
That's wow. I mean, that's very true. Firstly, and do you hold it against that teacher at some point? Like, do you still feel that like whatever happened? Okay, obviously attacking you was a personal thing because of certain things that happened in the past, right? But attacking you, and it's kind of a shameful thing as well, but do you somewhere hold that against him? Does that set in you somewhere?
It was upsetting me for many years because I didn't like myself. It was upsetting me because I didn't like myself because I suffered so much because of that move. I mean, it closed many doors for me, and it was upsetting me a lot. But then when I was going through my spiritual healing and seeing the sides of it and other different, I think that the forgiveness is the most healing thing in the world. But you can forgive from your head. You have to forgive from your heart. Took me quite a while to forgive, but I'm also very grateful now. I'm very grateful because he is responsible for my career. He is responsible. All the people that did bad things to me are the most responsible for my fast growth in this industry. And it's super true. Took me quite a while to forgive him. I forgave him because when I started to be a bit older and those spiritual things I started to understand how was it for him in his head when he had to do that to a 22-year-old?
Right.
It must be a very big mess. I'm now not almost. I need 10 more years to be his age, but at that time. But how would it now? I mean, I would never attack a child in my life. I mean,
of course.
If I was a professor, I would never even think about it to attack. I would not have a grudge because some kid is from somewhere or something. I mean, it made me question things. I can tell you one more thing. It's not connected to design, but when everybody left in that period, hardest moments for New Year's, because I was a party boy. I had 300 messages each year. All of a sudden, I have 3 messages. Nobody cares about me, and I remember that. And I will tell you what happened to this year. Of course, everything changed eventually, and new company, new everything. And this year, I'm every time when I see anybody on the street, I tell them New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, because I knew how much it would mean to me that somebody said to me on the street, Happy New Year.
Right.
And I don't forget that. And I was with one girl walking, and she asked me, why are you telling to everybody Happy New Year? I didn't tell her why I tell it, but she was annoyed by it, because in Serbia people stop saying Happy New Year and stuff like that. And we entered taxi. We entered taxi, and it was 2nd of January, so 2 days later. And I say to a guy, Happy New Year. And we start to drive. We finish, I said it from my heart. I said it from my heart because I truly mean it. And we stop other part of Belgrade, and he says, the drive is on me. And I say, why? And he says, because nobody said Happy New Year since the beginning of the year.
Oh, wow.
And that's how it goes in life. I know how much it would mean to me, so that's why I'm spreading to other people. That's how it works, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the thing that you said about forgiveness, I think most people forget the forgiveness is not forgiving the other person. It's also about kind of freeing yourself from that mental burden, right? You do not want to hold anger and hatred in yourself. So forgiving someone else is freeing yourself at the end of the day, which makes me very curious about your the stage where you had the spiritual awakening. So before that, were you a cynical person? Like, how was life before that stage? Like, how were you as a person? Was a lot more restrictive, a lot more cynical, skeptical mindset a part of you, or how was it for you?
Absolutely more skeptical about that kind of stuff, because I was a scientific guy, and absolutely more. And I hated guys that are spiritual, because the people that you see speak about it, they're mostly trying to sell you something, so they speak in some way which is not, because spirituality, it is about the money, but not in the way how it's marketed. Oh, the crystals, the chakras, and so on. Everything has its place in the spirituality, but not in a way where they give you a pamphlet and say, do this for $20 and you will be okay. It's a very deep process. And when I got somebody who knew what they were doing, it was a very deep process. I saw many sides of me. I saw a lot of anger. I saw a lot of doubt. I saw a lot of shame. A lot of shame. That's what I remember. There was a lot of shame inside of me. And there was also many thoughts that were very counterproductive, because they were inside of me. When they say energy, because today everybody's talking about energy, I'm moving my hands as I and there is energy, definitely. But I remember when I was talking with her, and she said, do you even know what is energy? Because I said, the energy is sabotaging me. And she said, do you even know what is energy? And I said, and she got me there, because my brain, my monkey brain, has heard it everywhere on YouTube and so on. And I said, I have no clue.
It's just a word that was getting passed around, so you kind of catch it on the air.
He has a bad energy. And she says, Darko, energy is just emotion in the motion. That's it. The emotion that's passing through your body, that's the energy, and it's always circulating. When you get angry, it's a different. When you get happy, it's different. There are many energies that are stuck inside of you, and that's how it works. The energy you project, you attract. And then she looks at me and she says, but it's not simple. It's simple like modern psychology. Shine bright like a diamond and you will be good. It's much harder than that. And then we went on the road, a very deep rabbit hole, which was very crazy to me to see and to experience.
Wow. That's
But listen, I will tell you one thing. Sorry for interrupting.
No, please go
I don't want this thought to run away. I don't want it to run away.
Of course.
When I was going to India to lecture, and I went there, and Ayurveda comes from there, yoga comes from there, meditation comes from there, everything comes from there. And I was around 3 years into that spiritual things, and I was learning about me, and I was learning about them, and it was completely new awakening in me from the scientific guy. And I'm driving and I'm entering the airplane. I will never forget it. And I'm entering the airplane, and I'm grabbing the, and on the front page, it's written, I will never forget, because I was like, I'm coming to the place to learn more stuff. And I'm looking at the magazine, and it's written, meditation, Ayurveda, yoga, 80%, 87% of Indians don't believe in it.
I agree with you. I mean, wherever you read it. So here's the thing. I'll tell you what happens. I think the appreciation for the spiritual side of things when it comes to yoga and meditation, that's still there. I mean, India is one of the spiritual capitals of the world, but I feel that spirituality has been kind of connected with religion too much in this country. So there is an internal resistance towards religion for a lot of people. Then that kind of takes over spirituality as well, where people are not willing to, give into that side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. If you've seen that on a newspaper, it's kind of true. I mean, it like a lot of things which are kind of in different cultures across India, they come from certain Vedic traditions and stuff like that, but people don't really think about it anymore. It's just like a tradition, so they just follow it. But there have been certain intentions why they were set in, right?
Of course.
Maybe some of those traditions don't even work in today's time anymore, but people have just continued that just because it's been continued throughout. And that again brings us to the point where you said that we need to question things more. I think there are people, and I think the number of people in this country, like the number is growing, where people are starting to question things and they're not just taking things for as it is. So I love the fact that you had this whole chance to kind of have a look at the spiritual side of things, because it's just another layer to think, which are also, again, speaking of energy and the whole idea of like we both are vibing with each other. It's basically aligning your vibrations with each other, right? So going back a little bit, even to the idea, because you were talking about certain traits that you have from as a person who's from Serbia. So how has life been in Belgrade, Serbia? Because I don't know much about where you come from, so I wanted to know how is the culture over there.
It's complicated. We are in the middle of the Euro, but we are not European Union, so it's a complicated subject. Well, we survived two wars in 93, 99 bombing.
Right.
Then Kosovo separated. There is 600 years of warriors here. We have been 600 years in the war, constantly. It's not like we don't fight for 100 years, 10 years apart. Each battle was 10 years apart, literally. First World War, we lost 75% of male population. Second World War, 67. To cut the story short, people are very tough here, but also stubborn. Don't want to learn new stuff. People are very educated. After the Second World War, their generation was super educated. It was blooming, and then the Yugoslavenian war started. To cut the story short, Belgrade is an intense city. It's tough. In last 4 years, it has been #1 party in the world. On most magazines, people don't even know that. Parties are everywhere. Music is everywhere. We are very happy people by nature. We have a huge hospitality. I always remember that there was a map circling around the internet, areas in the world where you will always get to eat for free if you ask for a meal. Serbia was one of the rare ones.
Oh, that's very interesting.
That we still had that, because Serbia, Croatia, whole ex-Yugoslavia, because it was bred on war, and you need to eat to survive and stuff like that. So it's Belarus has changed. It is growing rapidly. It is growing rapidly in last 7 years, insanely. We have now skyscrapers and stuff like that, which we couldn't even think about. But the culture is, Serbians hate when I say this, but they know that this is true. It's developed from the 90s and the mafia and criminals. We had them a lot after the war. A lot. Whole country was with them. Each neighborhood had their guy. I mean, Belgrade, and you have 50 main guys instead of one in each neighborhood, which has 5,000 people. Like that can only be done by Serbians. That can be only done by Serbians. And growing up in it was very exciting. Also, for me at least, it was exciting because you could see many different sides. When I was growing up, communism fell apart. And all of a sudden, you're on the field. It's not like in other countries where people are in classes separated. All of a sudden, I'm playing football with a guy that plays piano, with a guy that carries a gun, with a guy that plays professional basketball, with a guy that is super mathematician. We are all together on the field.
Right, right.
From a super rich family, from a middle class family, from a lower class family, we are all together on the field. And for me, it was very interesting to meet them all and to grow up with some of them. For example, some of them became on the other side of the law. But for me, it was very interesting to see that at the end of the day, everybody is a human and they all have emotions. And they have all emotions, they all have their problems. No matter how rich they are, no matter how poor they are, they all have their problems. And for me, that was very, very good because it gave me perspective.
Right.
It gave me perspective about life, that no matter who is on the other side, they are just human. They bleed and they smile the same. So it's the same.
That's very interesting. In terms of the industry that you're working, what are the opportunities that you have in Serbia? Do you see the
Zero. At that time,
wow,
zero.
okay.
Zero. We had Nordeus, which was the Serbian Google. It was the number one mobile gaming company in the world at what moment, and that's it pretty much at that moment. There was one more. It didn't exist anything. The last 7 years it grew. So most of the Serbians had to become freelancers to get in this industry. It was super hard for us to enter, but eventually we did. We have some huge names now, and very hard work behind it. Very, very hard, because when you're for third, that's the interesting thing. I finished car design, and there is some other guy that finishes car design, let's say in India, which is third world country, also super rich, but also third world country.
Right.
Or let's say Romania, doesn't matter, third world country. I finish. I'm top 100 young designers in the world. Everybody wants me, but I can't go because of the passport. Same with the Indian guy, same with the Romanian guy.
Right.
But Indian guy has companies in his country. Romanian guy has companies in his country. What I have a concrete that I walk in Belgrade. Done. And that it's super strange. It's super strange because each country has, even Africa, which was always presented as a super poor country, had possibility of industrial design. Of this.
Course.
We didn't. Design here doesn't exist.
Right. But is it also, I mean, why do you think it's in that situation? Because in India, what I realized is because of the cost effectiveness. A lot of work comes here, like the VFX, the production pipelines can run very well over here because we have a lot of people. The cost is low for other companies outside in India to send work in and get it done at a cheaper rate. So that's the reason why we see that we have a lot more of the industry. Like even I think even Industrial Light and Magic is going to start their division in Mumbai over here. So that like the rates are what actually allows India to have a lot more industry over here.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we don't get, at least we're starting to get, is creative control. That is still something that's staying with the decision-making team, which is in the US, which also makes me a little curious about Dan Luiz's story as well, because he left the States. Now, the States is known as the place where your creative dreams can come true, and he rejected that idea. So I think we are at that stage when it comes to world politics and the geography where the borders don't have as much an impact. But I wanted to know, like from your side, as to why the situation is like that. Why do you think there is not much of a growth for our industry over there?
It started to grow rapidly around 2012. It started. There is 3D studios, really strong studios are there.
Right.
But we come now back to the story that I told you, the neighborhoods and each one controlling the neighborhood. It's same with 3D studios. They don't have more than 15 people to 40 maximum. Okay. More than 40, and you can't unite them. You can't. Everybody has a different politics. The second thing, war. War stopped from people coming. Yugoslavia was in top 4 countries for movie making before the war.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Top 4 countries for people to come to record, to make. It was blooming. Cinematography was blooming. At the end of war, I always remember the teacher from Germany. They told him in '99 the bombing stopped. They were there was no internet back then and stuff like that. And everybody was telling him, if you're going to Greece, don't go through Serbia. They kill people there. And he never passed with a car, even though it was a much shorter road. And we were presented as villains to the world. We were presented as villains to the world, and it took some time for people to realize that we are not villains and stuff like that to come. But now some big things are being recorded in Belgrade, for example. Also cheaper and stuff like that. They are being recorded. Superman was recorded here. Johnny Depp comes a lot here. A lot of movies are being made here. 3D studios are really great. Concept art, not so much. Not so much concept art. Concept art, we are all freelancers. We are all freelancers except for Nordio, Smarthead, and I think one more company. But when I was starting, zero. Also to get to those people, zero. I will tell you about this. This is also interesting. 2013, I have all the resumes, Lamborghini scholarship, awards. I don't know what I have, and I come. There was only one studio in the Belgrade that did industrial design, and I was fascinated. They did bottles, they did perfumes, they did a lot of stuff. And I come to the company to speak with them. And I present myself. I was a kid, I was 24. I present myself and they say, you're the best candidate that ever came.
Oh, okay.
And I say, thank you. And he says, you're overqualified for us. I mean, it was such a mind fuck, to be honest, when somebody tells you're overqualified. Because if I'm qualified, let me work then. And they didn't hire me, they hired the blonde girl. And he tells me, but we'll hire her because she's a blonde girl. And for me, that's
an actual reason that they gave to you?
Yeah. They told me openly like that. And I was like, so I don't know, what should I do? Dye my hair in blonde? I don't know what I should do. That's what I'm talking when I said spiritual thing. And it puts boxes around you. All of a sudden you think you're overqualified. You will never get to work, and you are projecting that energy. And all of a sudden everybody is, if I don't have blonde hair, I'm not getting a job. And all of a sudden many boxes are happening and they're stacking you. But as I said, all the bad things that happen, they lead you somewhere else. And I'm very thankful now because I have really good career, and it's developing insanely good, and I'm very happy that happened. If I went to that studio, I would be designing bottles. It's simple as that. It's simple as that. And I would love to design bottles at that time, but I don't think I would stay forever. Same with car design. I was so fascinated with cars, and when I designed them, after 6 months I was very unhappy, because you take one line and you're moving it for weeks. One line. There is too many restrictions. Engineers there, they don't want to hear about anything new. It's completely different from what I was expecting. Completely different.
And I mean, I guess based on my very basic knowledge of transportation design, if you are working on a project, that project's not going to get released for like several years. Like someone who's been assigned the task to design the headlights for a car, that person has to keep on working on that. And also again goes to the whole part where there are actual physical sculptors who are working with clay to get the entire form. That's not machinized. That's actually like you resolve all of those things. So it's a heavy duty task. It takes years to get that done. But interesting that you said like the blonde girl story. I did not expect that, but I remember when I think I was watching one of your videos. Speaking of the stacks that we are put in, or even like I think you spoke about this thing of gatekeepers, like in order to have certain kind of growth in our creative ability. We have certain gatekeepers that we go
that
through.
Aged well now with AI.
Exactly. Not just even AI, with even like the NFT side of things, where things became so decentralized, people took the power away from gatekeepers, but that severely drastically affected the quality of work, where art, like what it meant at one point, it has started like kind of playing around with that understanding of what art is. So I wanted to know more about, like, if you could tell me about that whole idea of gatekeepers as to how they help, and at least even in the current stage, as AI is a different thing that I don't have much of a discussion with that, but I would get into that with you as well.
Yeah.
But pre AI and pre NFT, what was the role of gatekeepers in terms of an artistic growth in general? Yeah.
So gatekeepers they are needed. They are absolutely needed in anything. And the problem is that we are losing them. The world is losing them. In every profession, people are afraid to speak up for multiple reasons. They are afraid that the masses will attack them. They are afraid that somebody rich will put them down. They are afraid of that. They are afraid. Before gatekeepers, when someone was an expert, he was an expert and you would listen to him. Today, people are not listening to anything. Everybody thinks they are the smartest. I know that I'm not the smartest. And absolutely am here to learn till end of my life. I hopefully that will be 40 more years or something like that. I will be learning from everybody. The thing is that gatekeepers are needed. I will tell you why. When I was growing up, my father is a very manly man. And he
define a manly man for me.
Manly man.
Yeah, like
when you sit with him, when you sit with him, he will not shout at you. He will not scream at you. He will listen to you. And when you ask him for opinion, he will give you very calmly explanation of what he thinks, no matter how you will react to it.
Interesting. Okay.
He will tell you how it is. He won't attack you. He won't try to push you down. He will tell you, I think like this. When I presented him my work when I was a kid, he would say, Darko, this is shit. Because it was shit. My fragile ego couldn't handle that. Because nobody likes when you tell them that something is not good.
Of course.
It's the main component of becoming a good designer is to be able to understand when you make something bad. Second component is to understand how to make it better. And that comes from knowledge. But first you need to accept that something is bad and to develop. If my father was tapping me on my head and saying, my beautiful son, everything is amazing, my art would be a stickman still. And we are having today that in a society where everybody is pat on the shoulder that they are amazing for anything they do. Many things are not amazing in this life and they need to be updated. When I was growing up, we looked up for heroes. We looked up for superheroes. Superman was there to inspire me. Good-looking actors were there to inspire me. Football players, millionaires. It was something to aspire to become. Today, everybody is hating on them. Not trying to aspire to be them. They're trying to hate on them and to lower them. And that's why we are losing gatekeepers. Because gatekeepers are there to aspire you to become better and to close the door in front of your face. When something is bad, they need to say bad. But they don't just say that something is bad in a creative way. They also legally protect the art. When I was going to university, if somebody copied someone's work, everybody would call him out. Today, we don't have that. Today, everybody pretends like it never happened. And that's a huge problem. Because when NFT came, everything became art. And everything became art. There is no question, everything is art. Is it good art? Absolutely not. And we are living in the world where everything is supported. If I literally took, I don't know, I'm now looking for a clear example of something, but let's say, if I came and said, my book is the best book in the world, not many people will say and get up and ask, why do you think it's your best book? Who are you to think? They will be silenced. 15 years ago, if I said that, everybody would tell me you're a dumb motherfucker for thinking that. Prove us wrong. So gatekeeping by yourself and by others, it's super important in art. That's how prosperity is made.
Right, because I think what's happening at this point, I agree with you that I think we are getting celebrated too much for small wins. I mean, there is the whole ideology that, okay, as long as you start. I mean, like that's also a good thing, but I mean, the understanding of an achievement, whether it be creative or in a profession or health wise, like doing the smallest bit is gaining you a large audience celebrating you like crazy, which at the very beginning of this trend made sense, but now it has become too, like the abundance of that mindset has become a problem where people are being celebrated for doing the bare minimum. And I feel that's also, again, speaking of gatekeepers and also speaking of how your father gave you the blunt truth, it was not to hurt you, it was to give you that sense of understanding that
It was so I don't get hurt when I get out in the real life.
exactly, because he taught you
He
something
was
which the
fixing
world
it.
was going to teach you anyway after a few years, and you just got a strong glimpse of that at an earlier age, so you knew how you will have to deal with that once you come to, like, you reach the age of 20s or whatever.
You wouldn't believe how much of that I saw in the university, where a professor
Mhm.
tells somebody that something is bad and they get insulted and they're like, no, 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 I will do how I please. I'm a unique being. I will do it how I please. Well, you can do it as you please, but it will still suck.
I agree.
It's adjustment. It's understanding that you're not designing for yourself, but for other people.
Right.
That's what designers a lot of time forget, and artists. You are not designing for yourself. Even
You're
the book,
essentially
which is
problem
my
solvers, right? I mean,
absolutely,
yeah.
even artists, even the book that I'm doing, it's
Right.
not for me.
Right.
I feed my soul with it,
Mhm.
but the critics are everybody else,
Of course.
not the critic, and I have to be the harshest critic to myself. So the gatekeepers are needed. They need it, and I hope that they will return in a big, because when AI started, for example,
Uh-huh.
it is unethical. I'm not against AI. I'm against unethical use of AI.
Right.
And they took our images and create artwork out of it. And then they
Right.
say, well, guys, you also photo bash.
Mm.
We do. But if you check the internet, when somebody steals somebody's part from
Right.
the image of actual artist and puts it on his image, everybody would call him out.
Yeah, it is immediately called
Everybody.
out.
It is an art codex. It's an art gatekeeping. He's immediately. So what is AI doing? It's exactly doing that.
Right.
And it's very unethical. And then they say there is no law for it. Well, there was no need for law because nobody could do it so fast. And second, artists that gets on a very high level takes him 15 years to get there. Is not gonna copy other artists, but gonna eventually develop his style or her style.
Absolutely.
Because if it's invested that much energy, I'm not gonna be like somebody else. I will be me.
Right.
I mean, I watched many artists see me, Daniel Simon, Fausto De Martini. I love Fausto De Martini work. It's one of the
amazing,
best.
yeah.
It's amazing. Frida Kahlo, Pablo Picasso, Petar Mesleđijević is Serbian, Miloš Šobajić, Da Vinci, Tesla's work. You won't believe how many things I have mixed in my head to develop my own style. But eventually I didn't steal Da Vinci's and put his helicopter over mine. I developed my style. So that's gatekeeping also, having an ethical and moral values inside of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the AI stuff, I'm glad you said. I felt that the conversation was getting a little complicated with AI because I'm also not anti-AI because I think it's a fantastic tool. A lot of things that are very much uh, done with human effort can be automated, and AI helps with that. But the malpractice of using uh, licensed images, which are not Creative Commons images, and feeding the data sets using that is a problem. But I think at the starting stage of most tech, there is that space of back and forth where they will do something and will not work, and you will face a lot of pushback, which brings us to the critique side of things. There will be a lot of criticism at the beginning part of any kind of tech, but then eventually we will work through that, and that will be resolved. Because as the current situation goes, I think Carla Ortiz and the Consular Association, they have been working towards filing lawsuits against these companies who have been unethically developing their AI models. There will be a time where this will be resolved, and at that point, do you think artists will still be anti-AI? Because it's still now at this point you have AI that's an ethical tool. It's not hurting anyone, but it's still creating thousands of images at a small period of time, and that could take up a lot of work from people. So what do you think like an artist's understanding of this whole situation should be? Because I feel that in that situation we will still have to work towards a direction where we have to accept the fact that AI will still maybe to a certain point replace a lot of the things that we are doing currently. And we will not have that conversation that, okay, it's unethical. No, it's ethical now. You can't do much about it.
Well, legally they're pursuing them now hard, and I'm sure that they will stop them because there is too many clauses that present that it's bad. So I'm absolutely sure that it will be stopped in a certain way. I always compare it to the weapons when fire weapons were introduced, flamethrowers. They were extremely effective in close areas. In the Second World War, in the Vietnamese War, they were extremely effective. But they had to ban them in 1981. You know why? It was unethical to use them because the other people would, the enemies would get severe burns. They would die horribly. They would die. It's same with AI. It's inhuman. It's inhuman. I will ask you the simple question. You are an artist. What is that you like about your art? You'll now answer me probably this, that, but I will cut the answer for you. What you like is the process, how you get there. It's soul healing. It's soul healing. Every artist knows that. And all of a sudden you're giving me an AI that's going to create art for me and remove me that component of my soul that presents. Not a single artist you agree with. We come to another point now, and that's when they say, well, many professional artists are using AI. And then you ask, well, what do those artists do? One is a piano player, other one is a triangle player, other one is an actor in theater. None of them are artists that use it and say that's good. These are the guys which are artists, but in a different way. And it was always fascinating to me. We absolutely need AI. As I posted meme where there is that cat. I love that cat when it's crying. And it says, to the artist being upset and the cat is crying. What about us 3D artists? Make us UV and make us make us a simple UV and retopo. That's what we need AI for. That's what we not. There is too many depressed and people with anxiety in this world. Art is healing. It's not that something that I imagined. It's giving for serious mental things. It's giving. It's super healing. It heals your soul. If you remove art, I wrote that art is the last magic on this world. If you remove it, we won't have magic anymore.
Of course.
So that's it.
No, I think I agree with you 100% because the reason why I asked that question was AI being a thing now, at least in the art, from the art side of things, AI being a thing now. My personal opinion was that, okay, yes, it will automate certain things, but it also opens an opportunity for us to actually enjoy art more because, as like the movie, The Incredibles, where there was the whole sentence about when everyone's super, no one is, right? When you like kind of homogenize the idea of creating professional art as a product, I think it brings back a level of love for doing art for yourself, where you're not using it as just a task to be done at the end of the day. But there are like many moving parts to it. I mean, I think which is why you and Dan, you guys working on your own project. It's not just a project, it's voicing a story, right? I think the existence of AI and it removing certain parts that we had to physically work on, removing those things allows us to actually now take back control, creative control for working towards our own projects. Now, again, like tools becoming a lot more open source with Blender and then Epic Games basically building a much of their assets and their tech for free open source use allows artists to become their own filmmakers. So they won't have to have like they won't constantly have to work for clients. They can work on their own projects, and those can go out, and you can work on your own books that could bring a lot of money. So there is that whole space which I'm curious about as to where AI is going, and I don't see that AI is going to hurt to the level where people are thinking the AI will be hurting them. But I agree with you as well. It's the process of art that we fall in love with, and I feel that having AI taking care of a lot of things would allow us to kind of go back into that meditative process of doing art for ourselves.
Well, I think it will increase value of many things. For example, I'm quite happy that about one thing, it will increase value of my book. I mean,
Absolutely.
designing everything by myself and doing everything, it will be insane to see it. And maybe I'm the last generation that could do it by myself completely, because it's completely different level, And on the other hand, for me, it's fascinating. Those art ethics that for me, it's fascinating to see how much artists are fighting against unethical use. And I'm very happy because art is always divided in clans. It has always been like that, not since yesterday, for the last 500 years.
Right.
And the better clans the better you are. And this is the first time I'm seeing really they come together and say, what are we going to do about it? And this makes me happy because for the first time in history, they will fight against something together, me included with them. And that shows that artists are not as fragile as everybody thinks about us.
Right.
Because the AI guys which used it unethically, they thought that they will get us easy.
Turns out I think they believe that our silence on the matter will speak in their favor, and they realize that it's not how things are going.
They are freaking out now. They are freaking out.
Of course.
You can see by their comments on Reddit. I didn't expect them to freak out so much, but they're freaking out, literally.
Oh, what has been the conversation with them? Because I don't think I've followed on what the situation
Go on
is.
Reddit and you will see one of the things I laughed. Sometimes I think we live in a South Park episode, literally. Because they posted there is 11th point in when you sign the document. Nobody reads those documents.
Right.
If you as a person use images to infringe somebody's copyright and steal their work, our company will sue you. Their whole company is built on that. Their whole company is built on that.
Okay.
And now they're saying that they will maybe sue the users who are using it. Then there is a written, we are using this for non-commercial use.
Right.
I mean, come on, don't lie to us.
Okay.
So it's like a South Park episode when things start to evolve.
Right.
There is many other things that I can't tell you because it's behind the closed door. But yeah, it's interesting. It's super interesting to see this South Park episode. I mean, I'm very happy that I did Inside 44 without any help of AI. Right. Because for me now it has a much bigger worth than it had literally 2 months ago in my head. Now it's even more. And I'm happy for that. I'm sure that the AI won't be completely stopped. It will be regulated. We need to regulate it. Same happened with NFT. Same, I predicted this. I really predicted this. And one thing is also fascinating to me because when everything started to move, everybody was jumping on a wagon. Artists were somewhere against it. Piano players were for it, and so on. And then all of a sudden, two things happened that this I never predicted in my life, to be honest. One was that people are, after 2.5 months, getting bored with programs, and they're leaving them massively because they're like, it doesn't heal, it doesn't give me anything. I just press the button, even though they were saying they are leaving massively because there is no experience with creating that art. There is no experience equals value, simple. And for me, that's super interesting to see. It's super interesting to see that they are leaving because of that. I never expected in my life that would happen, because, and now we are coming back to the same thing. It's the most human thing to do. And we are all humans at the end, no matter how much, and they are coming back. So for me, that's super interesting to see that they are leaving. And yeah, that's fun thing.
No, but I think with the NFT side of things, I think what happened was that at the beginning stages of NFTs, when like people started talking about the possibilities that you have of actually becoming financially free
Yeah,
by just posting small JPEGs of whatever artwork, whatever it is. I think a lot of artists suddenly had this belief that now they won't have to do their work hours. They don't have to, assign themselves to the work of another client. They can
yeah.
basically have the whole freedom of just doing work and just selling them and for like thousands of dollars. And
And then
people
what
then
happened?
I think what happened is
It's
because like art became it did not remain as an artwork anymore, but it became just like a transactional commodity, which kind of gets
literally like a just, yeah,
passed around.
yeah.
So that's when I think as artists we know that of course we attach a lot of ourselves to creating something, but then seeing ourselves do that exact same thing which we hated, which is treating it as a commodity. A lot of people started stepping away from it again because with the whole idea of the angry army, and there became movements of like people creating customizable versions of the same thing. It was basically avatars which are being sold as NFTs, but it's almost like one pixel of a huge image, right?
Yeah.
So overarching, you're not having that much of an impact anymore on yourself, on other people. You're just becoming a blurb in a sea of like multiple other people doing the same thing.
You know,
So
in last couple of months, people started to ask me, "What will you do if your book fails?"
right.
And they always ask me that. The last couple of months, it started before no, because I finished it finally. So probably they got the courage to ask me, and because it took time. I mean,
Right.
it's a harsh thing to ask somebody who has invested 8 years, "What
Right.
will you do?" And I always remember people. People has been doing image a day for
Almost 15
15
years
years,
now. Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of energy accumulated in
Right.
artwork. And it doesn't surprise me that it's sold for that much, because
Right.
now we are coming now to that energy thing and human component. Everybody
Mm.
says, well, people images, everybody can make them.
Right.
Yes, they can, but not for 15 years.
Mm.
Because I don't, one thing is to do something for 3 weeks, one thing is to do something for 4 months, but for 15
15 years,
years,
every single day.
it doesn't surprise me that it's sold, because there is money is energy also. There is a
Right.
lot of, same with my book.
Mm.
Maybe it won't immediately go good.
Right.
Maybe it will stagnate, but I'm not worried. It's an energy bomb, literally. It's an
Mm.
energy bomb. 8 years every day on it, working wherever it goes.
Right.
I'm happy. I'm happy. I have my design career beside it. I know, and that's why am I saying that? Because many people don't start their personal projects out of some out of fears, especially what
Mm.
if it doesn't make it. The book has returned so much already to me. Gave
Right.
me incredible art skills that I could never dream 8 years ago. Gave me incredible clients, met
Right.
incredible people, came to the podcasts like yours,
Mm-hmm.
became recognizable as a name. If I didn't start in say 44 and I just worked on work,
Right.
I wouldn't be where I am. It is already returned so much.
Of course.
So effort equals return. There is no question, always.
So that means you are the kind of person who plays the long game with art, because there are people who are doing daily art, sketch a day and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then people who like you, who's investing time, like you do work every single day, but you're building for something, a setup to be created over the span of many years, right? So, I mean, could you kind of give me a pros and cons of this whole thing where like being a person who does like a sketch a day sort of a thing, or like like basically selling yourself as an artist every single day compared to someone who's been working on something for years now, and then
yeah.
it's like the I think the rate of it is like the pace at which things go, it differs on both the cases. But what are your thoughts on that?
For me, for example, image a day never worked. And I
Right.
realized that in a university. If you look at people image per day,
Right.
they haven't evolved a lot since 15 years. They were
Right.
already interesting 15 years ago, He just improved the technique as the tools improved, the lightning and stuff like that, but they're similar. I have a feeling that if you do a sketch a day, you will come to a certain point and it will stop improving.
Right.
Because it takes more time to analyze some stuff. Of course, there are some artists, Evan, for example, he did sketch a day. Sometimes it was 3 days. But you could see quite a bit of difference when he did something for 4 days and when he did something for 1 day. You can in his book literally feel it when it was more days. Because you can't solve all the problems in 1 day. And if you're constantly starting a piece all over again, we all have monkey brain. It repeats things. I learned that in boxing. In boxing, your hands move the same, always. You always move the same because it's connection with the brain, and they move the same. It's same with drawing. If you try to box in a different way, it will take you at least a week for your body to get comfortable with it. Sometimes months for some move, because it's different. And that gave me perspective. I don't want to do a sketch a day. I want my brain to be free and to move around. And it's harder, but it gives a lot of new things to learn and to polish them also. I will honestly tell you, my job was never hard for me. I love my job. But working on a book, there were a couple of times where I wanted to take the book, kick it as strong as I can through the window, because it gave me so much anxiety. It gave me so much problems. It's a huge science fiction world, huge drone design. Everything is interconnected, talking with itself. When I finished first 400 pages, when it was, now it's 200. When I finished, it took me 1 year to organize a book in InDesign, because there were so many elements that had to talk with itself. I had a huge burnout during that period. And I remember giving it to layout designer and saying, let's make it. Layout designer just takes places, the images, and done. And I was like, this is not gonna work. This is not gonna work. This is not gonna work, because nobody can do it. So eventually I had to learn how to write. I had to design. I had to place the pages. Everything was done at the end by me. And it's great because I had to learn all of those skill sets. It wasn't easy. It was super hard. And now I can bounce literally interior design, layout design, car design, graphic design, character design. But I'm not jack of all trades. I can do them all at a very high level. You know why? Because I didn't want to fail anybody when I published the book and they say this is shit. You see the painting behind me?
Right.
I was sure that I can paint. I was sure that I can paint this. I was sure that I don't know how to paint it. But I had to tell the story. And I need environments. I need scenes. And I said, okay, dear God, please help me. Please help me. I want to do this. And then I started to paint. When I posted these images, I was shocked how good people reacted to them. That same happened with characters also. I was afraid. Those are the boxes that we are talking about. I'm a hard surface guy. I can't do this. But art always overlaps.
Of course.
So that's the biggest difference for me, 1 day and doing it a longer period. For me, I would always pick longer period, because when I design, I can try many different angles and many views, and eventually it's a huge bulb that I can use in the future.
Right. I think with a project of this scale and taking the time on, you do not get a chance to kind of deep dive into anything if you're constantly changing the thought process every single day. Like with the sketch a day, I think a lot of people who have successfully done sketch a day or like a painting a day, I think it's not about the paintings on its own, but it's about building a certain artistic ability or technical ability which serves that, right? But then again, as you said, Ki, after a certain point, those things do not give you a chance to really judge how well are you doing, because it's the whole law of diminishing returns that it starts plateauing suddenly. And I think the biggest spikes of growth that you get is when you hit a wall, and then you get a chance to kind of self-analyze and see where you are. That internal resistance allows you to kind of again remap yourself into understanding where you need to push your work. So yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Tell me, is this video going to be posted on the Clubhouse? It's just the audio, right?
Oh no, this is going to be a video thing. I'll be posting
Video
this
thing,
as a
okay.
YouTube video. Right?
I wanted to show you the book as we talk live, but if it's recorded, then no. I thought it was just an audio thing.
Oh, I see. We can
Okay.
do that separately later if you want.
Okay. I wanted to show you so understand, because there was one moment after 4.5 years, everybody thought that I was lying that I'm working on the book.
I see.
People started to think that I'm maybe just full of crap, to be honest, because I wasn't posting all the time. I was repeating some of the designs because I couldn't share everything, you know.
Of course.
And they started to think that I'm joking about it, that I'm lying. 8 years. I mean, man, come on, let's be honest. It's a little bit ridiculous, to be honest. I would be like also, and then I showed a couple of people on 6 years or 7, and when they all saw, they were like, "Did you even sleep? Did you even sleep?" Like, because they were so shocked. We thought you were joking. We thought you were doing something like on the side. This is a whole world. This is a whole world designed, written. Everything is here. And they were surprised, and I wanted to surprise you. I wanted to have a live reaction for people to know, but if it's recorded, then I can't. I'm sorry.
But I mean, honestly, I'm not one of the people who would believe that you did not work on this, because I've seen you constantly. I mean, there is a level of drive that you can see in very few people, even in the way they speak about something. So that's very, I mean, obvious when it comes to your work. So there's no doubt as to you have been spending a lot of time. And also, but that's one part of it. The other part, which convinces me that you've been working on it, is because of the fact that you wanted to prove to yourself that you can do this as well. The things that you've gone through, the struggles, the backlashes that you face, those add as artistic fuel to, you know, find a way to get this thing done.
Listen, if everybody was tapping me on my head and saying I'm the best, it would never happen. It would never happen, because I always say to artists, you need to be hungry, but not hungry for the food. Food is this is different kind of hunger.
This is different hunger, yeah, of course.
This is different kind of hunger, proving people wrong, proving everybody wrong. This is a different hunger, and you either get it or you don't get it. On the university, when I came, I was the worst when I came to the university. I didn't draw, I didn't know, but that hunger was something that was really pushing me forward, and I wasn't aware of it. I thought it wasn't something special. Now when I look at it, it's one of the most special components that I have in myself. It's not something else. It's that hunger, that I'm constantly hungry. I constantly want to eat different food. And that's it. The hunger. You know, I talk with many designers. I get messages, I reply to them, and immediately when I get the message, I immediately know who's gonna be big and who's not gonna be big, immediately from the message. And I'm not gonna tell you how I know, because so everybody will send everybody will send different. But from what I read in the message, I immediately know. The simple answer is, if it's too casual message, like too casual, I immediately know this guy, this girl, it's not going on from here. Because
I think some people would connect with you just to make conversation.
Yes,
just for their internal happiness, that okay, I was able to talk to Darko. But then they don't have a question exactly. A lot of the questions they might ask you, they already know the answers to it, but they just want you to say kind of to confirm their own inhibitions or understanding of that whole thing.
I always answer to them, and I tell them one thing. Sometimes they miss my name, and they write my name, and I just tell them like this. Because I had to approach many people to get where I am. Coming from Serbia, I had to contact them online.
Of course.
And I always tell them, this is really advice for any designer beginner. And I wish that people talked about this more, because it's super important, especially these new generations. Maybe sounds like kind of old, but you have to be humble. And humble is not putting your head down and saying, no, I'm better. As you can see, I'm very flamboyant about my art. But being humble is like this. And I explained it through the mail. I have to say this because I'm getting an opportunity to say it. When you send to a famous artist message, You have to respect him and to be humble enough. First of all, if you don't write the name right, that speaks huge volumes about you. One thing is that you don't care about what you're writing. You never investigated, which means why would somebody who's in a high position in this industry even answer to you if you didn't even investigate their name? That's the first thing. Second, you people who are on a high level don't have time to chit chat. To which software you use, which this, which that. 3, don't play me. And I say this to Serbian artists always, because Serbian artists, I'm sorry, but this is the truth. This is the truth. Don't play me. Don't send me message like where you are answering how you will fix my problems. This is not a marketing game where you're playing with me. Don't play, because immediately I'm backing off. I mean, a guy sends me that never did anything. He says, hey, Darko, how are you? Listen, I have a solution for you how to create more work and how to sell more work. Immediately you are like, as an artist, you are here. I'm here. Don't put me here, you here. Not because of my ego, but because of the respect that you have to have towards me, like I have towards you. And it's simple like that. And those are some mistakes that artists, when they send, I mean, it's insane what kind of messages you get. It's insane what kind of, and I will literally make a course how to respect, because when I was sending messages to high-end artists, I would say, excuse me, sir, if you have time to answer to my message, please. If no, I completely understand, because he doesn't owe me anything. She doesn't owe me anything. Second was always politely, I would constantly write that message for a couple of days so I can send it, so I'm sure that I don't say something wrong. Today, everybody's like, hey, hi, how are you, Darko? Have any job for me? No.
It's a spur of the moment thought for most people at this point.
Yeah, it has been. So that's, for me, that's one of the things that has changed the most in last 7 to 10 years. That respect is completely gone. And then they write, I don't know how, I don't get any job. Do you have any job for me? Do you have this? And I'm like, wait. Slow down. So respect is, humbleness and respect is number one. It's number one. Don't play the artist. He will know that you're playing. I went already through all of that.
But also, do you think that most artists, I believe, they are very reserved. I also feel that some of them don't even know that this is a thing that they need to worry about, like communication, and as to how you communicate your needs to someone else who doesn't know you, who doesn't owe you anything, even seeking that level of, even if it's a silent mentorship. But I think most people kind of lose out, most artists kind of lose out on that opportunity to understand that there is a decorum, there is an understanding that you need to develop in order to even communicate with artists from whom you're trying to learn to, or even if it's not someone you're trying to learn to, even if it's a peer who you know who's doing the same work, but just the ability to communicate. I think that's where things get a little bit more hurt for a lot of people. And maybe even the pandemic situation, which literally stopped everyone from meeting everyone, that made people even more reserved. So I think even that has some role to it. But I agree with you, which kind of brings me to the question that I did not even have in the beginning, was that what do you think is missing in design and creative education these days? Like,
oh, that's an excellent question. An excellent question. I mean, I saw Eastern European University, which is Serbian. I saw Western University, which is Western. But to answer first what you said about communication is super important. And there is a huge, everybody's talking about the ego, but nobody understands what the ego is. Right. And that's a huge problem. And when I was on THU, I will always remember a couple of things. Artists in front of me approaching, the guy, the famous guy is walking, and he's walking, and you can see he is in a rush. Right. And the artist, instead of letting him pass, because you see the guy is rushing, he grabs him by the hand. They don't know each other. He grabs him by the hand. He says, I'm going to show you my portfolio. Right. And the artist is like, sorry, I'm in a speed, later. This artist that grabbed him by the hand didn't understand that the guy is in speed. Didn't understand that you should not grab somebody by hand that you don't know. I mean,
not even just anyone.
What are you doing? Like you don't know the person. Right. And he leaves, and the guy turns to me and he says, I knew he was a douche. And that kind of, and it's not that it happens rarely. It happens, you wouldn't believe how often, because of the own insecurities that people have. I mean, it's literally like you're looking for a way that he shows that he's a douche. And I saw that many times. Now, this is a specific scene, but I saw that many times. Like, or for example, there was a line for one artist, and I'm standing in the line. And in that line, everybody wants to speak with him. I want to speak with him. But I completely understand the situation that there is 200 people. My mouth dries after 20 people. This guy is sitting with 50 people and he says, enough, next, enough, next. And then people who didn't come to line, most of them are like, oh, my art is or shitty, doesn't matter. I know he doesn't want to see my art. Or other ones get insulted.
Right.
Listen, you are nobody. You're nobody. You understand? You're nobody currently. You are leveling up. Until you level up, don't expect too much. Don't act like you're privileged. You're not privileged, no matter who you are. You are not privileged to bother that person. I also always loved when everybody's shitting about CEO. CEO doesn't do anything, doesn't do this, doesn't do... And then you get to that position and you're like, oh my God. Oh my God, like what I need to do, is there anything? I'm so sorry for everything that they said. Universities, American universities have one thing that I really loved, that European don't, Eastern, Western, and I really like that. And I spoke that with Indian guys when I was there with them, and that's that American ones teach you about business. How do you get the client? Yeah, how to get the client, how to negotiate, how much are the day rates, how much is this? Here we didn't have a clue how much are the day rates. Like when we heard them, we fell off our chairs, literally, when we heard them. But somebody who leaves American university, they already know how much are the rates. They already know many things. And for me, that is very impressive what they did, because at the end of the day, art is business. It's not art just, it's a business. You earn money with it. Eastern universities, for example, when you enroll, I was rejected by both architecture and design university in Belgrade. And I was rejected because here you draw portraits to enter that universities. And then later I found that in all Eastern Bloc you draw portraits. I still don't know how to draw portraits. I'll be very honest. I still don't know, and it's for me that's a big fail, because I think you should analyze other things about the person, especially their head. It takes a little bit more time, but I think that there should be talk with each candidate one-on-one to see who they are and their aspirations. Because talking with somebody one-on-one, it gives you a lot of information about their future.
Of course.
It gives you a lot of information. And if you just see the drawing, we had a Russian guy on Lamborghini scholarship. I will never forget that. I'm not gonna name him, but I will. That glued to my all the mistakes I saw from myself and from others. I wanted to improve them, and that's what made me successful. That's what made me successful. He was bloody brilliant when he started drawing. He was brilliant with markers, with pen. He was, no, you wouldn't believe what kind of lines that guy created. After 1 month, for next 12 months, he was drawing the same thing. But if I saw his sketch, I would say this guy is an ex-Picasso.
Wow. Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
But when you start talking with him, you see rigidity when you're rigid in his talk. You
the
see
facade starts falling apart after a point.
You see that he is not interested in learning new stuff. He thinks he's a god. He thinks he's a god. He thinks he's the best. And it's exactly that was translated to paper. First sketches. 12 months later, he's still drawing the same car. He just removes the glass from it. I will never forget that. I will never forget that. But what I'm trying to say, students shouldn't be enrolled in that way. Those are the two main critics that I have. Learn them business and learn them this. But who's going to learn the business? Now is the question. On American universities, French universities, UK universities, there are professors that do business beside the university. Right. They have business. They're established artists in other universities. And it's very true. They can get insulted as they please. Most of the universities come people that never did freelance career. And there is nobody to teach them. There is nobody.
Doesn't it hurt their ability to teach further? Because if they're not actively working in the industry, then what are the educational values that they send? Like,
Depends.
sharing with the students?
Depends because if you're a teacher of sketching, sketching is always the same. You don't need to be an expert as a freelancer to teach sketching, 3D. I mean, there are different sectors, but then you come to American university, you saw how the professors are there. They still work. They still work. Most of them they do part-time jobs, or they're connected with people. In Eastern universities, you don't have that, and you don't have information. You don't have information. Everything that I learned by myself. I learned by myself. I had to dig, to pull for the sleeve as the artist, to pull them, to ask them question. Everything I had to ask somebody to give me the information. And those are the two things that I would definitely update on the university. However, maybe it is impractical. I'm very honest. Maybe it's impractical because it would take a lot of time to do that, to interview 300 students. I can imagine in China where you have 50,000 applying. I mean, or in
You've
India,
seen those images where like thousands of students in the same room drawing the same thing. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's impractical to ask everybody, but on smaller universities, I would definitely ask that. I mean, you learn a lot about person by asking them, not by drawing. Drawing is... You see that also in the industry. There is a guy that does amazing drawing, and that's all he can do. For example, plants, environmental plants. And then he gets something else, and he's like, I don't know. So it's you need to talk with the person. That's why we have gatekeepers or art directors, which are amazing. They do incredible amount of work.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think even the fact that you said that the business side of things is not entirely taught in many universities. I honestly don't know what the situation is with Indian art colleges currently, but the business side of things, I think it's not just about the business aspect of it. It's the idea that artists can protect themselves now. If you understand how to set correct rates for yourself, how to market yourself, those all serve you to not be exploited by companies which don't understand anything about art. It's essentially a protective setup for you. So I guess I agree on that. Where
to protect yourself, first you need to have experience in business. Everybody in this industry wants to protect themselves immediately as they start. You can't protect yourself. You will fail because you have no clue. I had no clue. And I hated myself because of that. I was like, no, this guy again tricked me. How can I know? I never read legal books. I never read economical books. I never had experience. But also what happens, there is a trick there. When you are a super hardworking individual, you tend to hate yourself. But there is other point to it. And I will tell you as an example. I worked for a guy. He tricked me. He used me. And I lost a lot of money on that business because I didn't sign a contract. I didn't protect myself. I overestimated myself that I will do something for much less time than I needed. However, he wasn't true to himself. He lied. He gave me more work, but he made it because he had experience with that. He made it look like I was at my fault. And I worked day and night to finish it for 1 month. And I finished it. You have designers on the other side that never signed the contract. They said they will do something. And they, because of no experience, if you start working, and this is what I got to when I started working with designers and artists, and they say, we will do it for a certain amount of time. And you say, okay. And then they start working. They understand, well, this will take longer. Instead of taking the responsibility for their bad business, they start to blame it on you. You're using them. You're using them. And then however, there is, thanks God, I have contract now. But this is something that I never... It's one thing is to walk a path that was built by people who built it. However, people always take the path through the grass. Or that meme, the UX designer, the guy that's walking on the path that should be walking, but there are other guys. I never anticipated that this would happen because I came from my side. I was like, I would never lie. I would never put it on somebody else. I would never do this. I would take the responsibility. And then I have all of a sudden designers which are like, you are asking us for too much, raise the price. I gave you with open hands. I asked you whatever you want. So that's one more trick to learn as you go through the business. Like,
I feel that art, because of its, I genuinely feel understanding art is a very vague thing. You can't really the conversation of what is good art and bad art, it's quite subjective because people's taste and understanding of that, they change. But I think that's what makes a lot of artistic jobs very exploitation oriented, because something that you've put a lot of effort in, which took like it takes a lot of effort to make something look very simple, right? Like something which would like, which when we speak of designs which are iconic and timeless, when you look at it, it seems so simple, but it took years of you crafting your ability to create that. But then someone who doesn't have much of an idea, right, about the process, they can immediately shut it down with just one comment that, okay, this is too simple, why would I pay you so much money for that? It's, I think, what art stands for at the base of it, that really, like, that can serve the artist for a better purpose, but also it hurts them in some way because it becomes very exploitative just because of the vagueness of what is considered art, which is, again, I think that stems at the base of most problems when it comes to the NFT art or AI, because now they're selling the idea that everything is art, which is true, but that also again hurts a lot of the processes that we have built for years as artists as well.
Well, the quality art will always have quality. Quality is what protects you. There is no
Right.
question. If you don't have quality, you can protect yourself.
Right.
Because three things in business are important, super important for me. And I didn't understand that they're important before I started working and seeing with other designers and stuff like that. I'm trying to not to be rude toward designers because I'm one of them. I'm one of you guys, but I'm trying to just leverage the field and tell them how things are.
Of course.
What is beside great art? It's super important the deadlines. When you say something, you will do it. It's super important estimating your time, and it's super important being true to yourself and true to the client. Those three things many times disappear. Artists pretend they don't exist, and this is a truth. There is a reason why some artists are super high level and some artists are lower level. There is a reason, even though there is a quality of work, but they are lower, they are higher. Those three things change everything. You have artists that are incredible at artwork, incredible, but they treat business like it's something not important.
Right.
Delay with the deliveries, delay with the bills, invoices, delay on the meetings, delay. That's very unprofessional. So it's a business at the end. Are you a businessman? You have to be true, precise, and loyal.
Right. Right.
And that's the way it is. The art is literally like this finger. It's completely different, but they all together work. And they're unavoidable. Talk about money is important, especially in art. Artists are always afraid of the money to talk about it. I was afraid of it to talk about it. It's super important to talk because when you negotiate, if you have good skill, you need to sell it.
Right.
If you don't talk about the money, why would client even want to give you money if you're not asking for it?
Because if you give them that opportunity to say that, yeah, pay whatever you want, they will pay whatever they want.
Absolutely.
And that's a slippery slope.
You have different clients. You always have their crazy clients also. You have to have at least one a year crazy client. At least 1 year crazy client. I always say, many people get discouraged. I had a client, I will never forget that. Why am I talking about this? I had a client and it was a guy, he ordered a device design. And I tell him, listen, I'm not an engineer. Because he has no clue. He has 70 years. He has no clue how design works. He is not an engineer. He's not an artist. He never had a contact. And I say, listen, I'm not an engineer. I'm a designer. I can make you a good shell. However, I have knowledge in engineering. If you provide me engineer, I can work with him and we can do it this much faster, just to confirm that it's okay. I will get out of my way, cut your costs. He says, okay, perfect. And that's how the client thinks. Immediately when you tell him I will cut your costs, he wants you. I make a contract. I write 15 days. I'm just giving an example. 15 days. We have to design the device. 5 days I will give you for investigation where I will place the components of engineering, which is like this. He says too much money. I say, okay, then we can lower it to 3. But I can't give you as much as you wanted. 3 is already enough, but I will give you as much as I can. Too much. Okay, what is your budget? He tells me the budget. I tell him 12 days, maximum 12 days. No more than this. I outline everything that I want to do. I send him first batch. He says, it's not finished. I tell him it's a design. He says, I expected more. I tell him, I outlined everything for you. Please read. He reads. He says, okay. 3 days later, I see that we are not getting a shape. We are changing. It started as this device. It became a 3-meter device. He's changing every day. Every day, how he wakes up, he's like, I'm changing. I tell him after 3 days, we set 3 days for investigation. Everything about it, I will have to charge you. Tomorrow, he gets insulted. He says, you tell me you will give me in 12 days a finished product. And I tell him, open a contract. He opens a contract. And I say, I told you, and I specifically told you that what I will do. But I told you not to change as you please. Because I don't have whole days to change as you please. It's written in the contract. He says, okay. He continues changing for 10 days. And I tell him, I will give you, because I feel now bad, literally, because you wasted all days, I will give you 2 more days. He says, what 2 more days? I will tell him, 2 more days because we are going over. I noticed you. He says, you told me you will give me a full product. We are still not done.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And I tell him, we talked about this 2 times.
Right.
I explained you everything. I have all recorded. If it doesn't work for you, you can always try and sue me. Because I was loyal to you. I was delivering on time. I was trustworthy. And I did everything you asked. And I informed you. Those are main, and I'm clean in this story. Why am I telling you this story? That's when you have insane client. Later, he was setting me, threatening me with emails and stuff like that. You will always have insane client like that. That was 5 years ago. I don't work with that kind of clients anymore because I can. The bigger the client, the easier it is to work with it. Right. Honestly, it's much easier to work with it. They know what they are doing when they ask you, and it goes much easier. Why am I saying this? I knew how to protect myself. After 8 years of being used like a donkey, I knew finally how to protect myself. And before I would help myself, I did everything I was asked for and more. And I can't feel bad about it. It's his, because he doesn't. Why am I telling you this? The point of story is, we need to educate our clients. When they don't know, we are educating them. I could have played it differently. After 3 days, I pretend that we never went through initial phase. And I just continue working. And on 10th day, I tell him, you have 1 more day. And we are done. That's not loyal and honest conversation in business.
Of course.
That's not all. Many artists do that. They're like, he should know. No, you are educating your client.
Right.
Honest was that I tell him that we lost 3 days. Done. I'm clean from that side. Where do you want to move? Because at the end of the day, I am provider, he's a client. Where do you want to move? And that's it. It's a two-side street. If the other street doesn't stop responding, like he said later, you said you will give me a final product.
Right.
I said, but you have the contract. I noticed you everything is recorded. Have a great day. That's it pretty much. And I very often see one side street from the artist. Oh, he doesn't understand 3D. He doesn't know it. Well, educate him.
Yeah.
It's your job. Educate him. Like when I work with clients who had no clue with production manufacturing, I always tell them, listen, manufacturing is a special process. I can do it, but you won't be able to produce immediately my things. We need to optimize them. It takes money. It takes time. And then he says, well, you're doing 3D. Yes, I'm doing 3D, but I don't optimize the inner shells, and I don't optimize the inner pieces that can have to be connected. I can pretend that I do them, but I don't do them. So we need an engineer.
Right.
Two-side street, two-side, open. Many people always tell me in my life that I'm too honest and stuff like that, and too open, that people can use me. Trust me, nobody can use you when you know where you are standing and when you are speaking from honest part. Right. Because if you are honest, the other side can pretend as they please. They can do whatever they want. But if you are honest, there is no lie between you two. Of course. There is only honesty. There is nothing for them to pull you in. And it very fast shows the characters.
Right. I think the clarity of communication is what you're speaking to over here. Because I think before you, as you said, a lot of clients do not understand the ropes of the job. They come to you for that solution. So as long as you are sure that you're not exploiting the clients, you want to give them the product that they need, and you just tell them, like educate them, as you said, through the process as to what takes how much time, and then based on that they can tell you, okay, does this even work for them at the end of the day. And that's where, like, again, like, I think that level of clear, crystal clear communication, I feel bad that people told you that you're too honest, but I feel like honest is the only way you can protect yourself in these kind of situations, like.
For me, absolutely. Now, when I'm older, I completely understand it, because
Right.
immediately when you are dishonest, the business can go sideways. When you are trying
Right.
to take something, it can go like this. It can't. We are all
Mhm.
clear and we are open. You know the deal. I know the deal. There is no
Right.
running away from it. Because that's the thing. Those three fundamentals: being loyal, being precise, being trustworthy. Done.
Mhm.
Done. There is no question about. For me, that's a good business. Everybody should do business like that,
Right.
and there will never be problems. I never had a problem in my life with a big client. Never in my life.
Mhm.
Never in my life. I don't have a single big client that will come and say something that went wrong. Not
Right.
because they know their job. I know my job.
Right.
And whatever they say, I work in that direction. I don't pretend to be smart. I do what they ask for.
Mhm.
Done.
Very interesting. Okay, let's talk design a little bit, because you're someone who has an incredible understanding of what design means. What, according to you, makes a design iconic or timeless?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't think anybody can answer that. To be honest, I don't think anybody. I can try, but for me, designing something iconic, and for this kind of when something is iconic, it's literally like a bomb in front of your face. So the answer
Right.
has to be bomb, literally in front
Right.
of your face.
No, I think you can expand on that idea, because, but like, even going back to certain designs that we know that stick with you, like whether if it's the design of a brand. I think a
Yeah,
lot of brands focus on making their language iconic, and it just like fashion, it has to go with them. It does not have to change over time.
yeah.
Something. So if you could expand on that idea a little bit.
For me, iconic design is a design where function follows form completely, but with a twist.
Okay.
That's something has to have the twist on it. For example, iPhone.
Right.
And twist can be different things. iPhone, for
Mm-hmm.
example, beautiful. First product to use G2 curves, because most
Mm-hmm.
products back then, cars used G3. Those are the
Right.
curves. And the iPhone was first the one to use G2,
Mm-hmm.
2009, I think it was. And it was a beautiful, simple, elegant, functionable twist. First phone that has a touch screen.
Right. Right.
It was a huge twist. Then we have the most legendary design. I have it behind me. Let me show you.
Sure.
Let me show you. This is my favorite piece in the house.
All right.
Philip Stark Alessi. This was done by Ale,
Oh.
and I have it. I bought it in Italy, and it
Oh
stays.
wow.
So this is a lemon squeezer,
Oh,
and
that's
the
very interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
lemon squeezer. And it's number one design in the world, they call it. Why is it so fascinating? He designed it with Alessio. He was putting lemon on a squid, and then it fell to his mind. But look at the craftsmanship of this thing. Look how
Right.
iconic it is. It looks like out of this world. First of all, the metal surfaces. Uh, Lemon squeezing, for example, is something that you do that thing and then you pour it. Here,
Right.
when you do it,
Right. Right.
it goes through this uh, insets. It goes and it comes from
Hmm.
here completely. It's completely with a twist. But look how iconic it is. Function follows
Right.
perfectly, and there is a twist to it. There is a certain twist to it. For me, that's what iconic designs. And I will tell you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
My iconic design, the design that people love the most, are two things. Air One car.
Mm-hmm.
That's the car that I
Right.
designed. Everybody loves that car. When they see it, they're like, wow. And second thing is Urge Giant. And when I analyzed, because I was sitting with myself, I did many designs after that, but when I was sitting with myself, I was like, I did three things to make it incredible. First of all, it's something that I wanted to create. I, accent on I, it came from here. Second, there was a lot of emotion behind it. It wasn't technical, because today you have many designs that are technical, but it literally exploded on the screen. It exploded on the screen. And a lot of energy was invested in it. So it wasn't one day sketch. I don't have anything against, but it was almost 2 months of work. Every day trying. And when that translates on it, sometimes I have a feeling, and I know I have come to the point where I know when something is going to be good for me. Not, I don't have designs on this level, maybe one day, but I'm not this famous to have designs on this level. But I know when something, and that's when I sit down, I have so much information about the subject in me. I thought about it, and then I just explode on the paper. And I sense how from my heart and brain, it's going to my pen, and I'm working on it. Literally, I can sense it. It's always this. It's always this. It's always this. Because if it wasn't done like that, this could have been completely different. Yeah, completely different. Completely different. Even though the function technicality is there.
Right. But also that also kind of speaks to the idea that I don't think as a designer you create iconic designs, but you create a design and then your audience tells you whether this sticks with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. Audience is always right. Audience is always right. I will say I mean, I didn't choose car to be the best. I just put it, and people still love it after 7 years. Still, they love it the most when they see it. Like, damn, this is good. Then I put some other design. I put it in there. Like, this is great, but this is good. Tiny the elephant, the character that I designed, the elephant. Everybody loves Tiny. It was literally done in 2 days. It fell on my mind. I was like, I'm gonna bash it. I'm gonna do it. Done. And I was like, I never expected that people will like him so much. I never expected in my life that it turned out to be the most loved character from Inside 44 currently that's published. But I never expected that people will like it so much.
Also, I guess like the characters, I think the reason why they also resonate with people is because the characters are also developed from people that you know, your friends and people who you've had a chance to soak in their personality. Because I think I was watching one of your videos where you talked about this
you
friend.
Investigated good. I like when I come to interview and somebody has read about the guy that they bring or the girl they bring. I mean, yeah, that's very true. That's very true because that people energies in that characters definitely, and that's what makes the whole world of Inside 44 very, very vibrant. At least I like to think about it. And art is magic. Art is magic at the end of the day, and art is emotion in the motion or energy. And if there wasn't their energy on it, and I have many more characters like that inside. If they didn't annoy me, if they didn't make me laugh, I would never be able to translate them on the paper as I did.
Speaking of the design aspect of things, because another thing that I got really curious as to, you were talking about the psychology of design. Okay. I've always thought that because I was again kind of understanding psychology of design. You even showed like with a wonderful diagram where like a actual good design or good art has three aspects of it, which is the psychology, then the design aspect, and like it, at least probably for hard surface design or any kind of good design, psychology, then design, and then there's the surface. Like you kind of broke it down, but I got interested in understanding the part where you speak about psychology, and you spoke about heritage. I wanted to know more about that front. Like, how does heritage plays into the psychology of good design?
Well, that's an interesting thing that I developed later. When I was doing spiritual stuff, I started to analyze that because as the old saying goes, blood is not water. And which means it's much denser than that, and your ancestors are in your blood. They translate many experiences towards you. Heritage. For example, many it's a perfect balance of your heritage and learning from your ancestors how they did things. And for example, when I was in India, I was very surprised by this. In India, I was in New Delhi.
Okay.
And me coming from Serbia, where we eat a lot of packed food and bring it home, Serbians are very, when something doesn't work, Serbians do tend to get angry. And when they get food not packed good, they get angry. And it's my heritage. I also get very insulted when the food is not packed good. And then I come to India. And they're bringing me food which is packed horrible. I will honestly tell you, it's some food delivery.
I was about to ask you.
And the first thing that I remember was that they bring me spices in a plastic bag, but liquid spices. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know, what the fuck? This can break, and anytime I squeeze it, it will go in my face. Why am I saying that? My heritage gave me opportunity to see the things from that side, how they can be done in a different manner. So for example, different kind of approach with food. It's a different kind of approach, but Indian people were much calmer than Serbians when it comes to food. That comes from the war. That comes from the 600 years of war. We are hungry. I want to eat. Pack me food good so it doesn't die, and so on. So why am I telling you that? There are different principles of design in each of us.
Right.
You will approach it differently, I will approach it, but also nationality wise, you will approach it, sexual wise, feminine, masculine energy. It's very different approaches, and none of them are wrong. None of them are right, but it gives you different perspectives. You get certain points with your heritage. For example, maybe I could understand the spices that they need to be packed and aligned and stuff like that. But on the other side, I would never understand if I didn't work on myself. The beautiful design has a lot of feminine energy in it, because Serbian men, we don't like feminine energy in us. We have to be very strong, very tough, and stuff like that. So everybody has pluses and minuses. Everybody has pluses and minuses. Same in the body. You have female and male energy. But if you put one down, the other one overcompensates. Point is that every culture has its heritage that can be used in a good way for a design. Depends from the angle you take it.
Interesting. I think because when I saw the word heritage being associated with psychology, it felt like it's going both ways, where not only you creating work that gets inherited by other people down the line, but it's also the influence that you have currently, which were inherited by you from your past.
Yes, that's definitely.
Also interesting to hear the story about New Delhi and food. I feel
beautiful food, by the way. Beautiful. I will honestly tell you, the best food that I ate in.
I guess the spice palettes work for you, because
I loved it. I started eating Indian food when I came back to Belgrade after that. I have a favorite Indian restaurant very close. I love Indian food. I love those spices. I love the smells. I love everything. I got hooked on Indian food when I was in New Delhi. I literally got hooked. I was afraid that it will be maybe too spicy or too strong smells, but once I tried it, I never went back. That's
well,
it was very spicy. I love spicy food. I loved it.
Oh, then India is the perfect place for you to try food. But but I think what I found interesting is that when you said about like how the food being not packed in the right way, that could upset you, because of the reasons as you stated, but
you don't understand it. You don't understand it until you start analyzing it and reading it through your heritage. You don't understand why would the non-packed food so annoy me. Like there is no reason to so annoy me, but then there is blood in me, certain blood that was hungry for centuries. If the food fell on the ground, I wouldn't have something to eat, my ancestor and stuff like that.
Right. I think you can also use the same root cause to be the reason why it doesn't bother a lot of Indians, because the lack of having enough food at a certain point made them feel like, okay, packaging is the least of their concerns. It's just the food.
Absolutely.
Available.
There is also Hindu religion, which is most dominant, as I know. And that's the way life is. It's the way it is.
Right.
And here, no, I will do something to change it. Here it's I will do something. So yeah, there are many factors. There are many factors that intertangle. There are many factors that intertangle. When I was studying with international students, it was so strange for me how differently. For example, Americans had the biggest business mindset. That's 100% true. They had everything was. I will give you one more example about how different people think and how it can be beneficial. I was on some lecture about marketing, and the lady says you have to solve the problem. There is a building, it has an elevator, but the elevator goes too slow. People have to wait for it, and they have to wait for it, and the people want to leave your building. They don't want to give a rent there anymore. This is super interesting because it came to my mind. This happened 1 year ago, very recently. And she says you have to solve it. And I was there with a friend. The lady that was giving the lecture, she's a friend of ours. We were the oldest there, 30 plus. The rest were students. And we grew up in a completely different city. It's Belgrade, but it's different, and different books and different everything. But also we have different professions. We have different professions. The guy, my friend, is a businessman. He's a businessman, a real businessman that does money. He's calling his business. And I say, okay, we can solve this elevator. In my head, I'm solving it. And I'm like, I'm the smartest man in this room. I will solve it. And I'm like, okay, we will solve it like this. We will make this, we will block the elevator for 1 month. Put the guy that drives them on the side and so on, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to design way. You understand? And then the younger guys come and they all say the same. We will put the music inside of the elevator, so they are animated in the elevator. So then we will put the flat TV screens in front. And I'm now thinking about it and listening because the new generations don't have contact with reality. Mostly everything is over internet. If I enter the elevator that moves 5 hours and there is a music, eventually I would bite the cable. Everybody will bite it, but the new generation doesn't. They are like, we will animate them and so on. But now comes the most important lesson for me, is that my business friend says, he's looking, he says, oh, I will fix it very simple. And she says, how? He says, well, I would give them 5% from each payment of the month. I will give the money back, and for 3 months I will take out the elevator completely and rebuild it.
Oh wow!
And it's the most simple solution, but it works. If you think about it, it's done. It works. Oh, and everybody and the younger generations, they're like, no, that is not okay. That is, and in my head, I'm like, damn, this guy is good. This guy is good. This guy is good. No wonder why he's a businessman. so it's so interesting how different people perceive different stuff.
Right.
And he solved it. He solved. My idea wasn't good. My idea sounded good, but it wasn't good.
That's very interesting. Wow. I wanted to ask you about. So we have seen the art community evolve quite a bit over time. Right now, and I'm not speaking as to the art community together, but in terms of there was forums at one point, and then they converted to Facebook groups. And now I think at this point, Discord is the place where art communities form themselves. Like if you take social media away from the thing, because with social media, I don't feel like it's an art community, but it's more of a showcasing of the final products, but where people get to speak to each other, and if it's not on a physical platform. So how things were at one point when it was like the conceptart.org stuff and then level up and all that. So how has been your experiences with online art communities in general? Like how was your communication with people? And
the thing that we spoke about, gatekeepers, they existed, and people used to have communication before. Right. It went from real life to internet, but it was a real communication. Right. We really spoke. And when I was there was Design Zone in Serbia. It was a famous forum. There was Concept Art Forum. There was 3D Total. There was CG Talk. When you posted something, people would really critique. But what is most interesting, not everybody would critique. not everybody would allow themselves to critique something. They would need to have certain experience to allow themselves to critique. And that started later to change. So for example, I didn't comment on anybody's work on Design Zona for 4 years because I didn't think of myself worthy. Took some time to build a skill. Not that I was an expert, but it was a different completely mindset. And the critics were very valid. I remember I posted a car, they told me the wheels don't move, the passenger can enter, come to, the sky didn't exist then, but I think Mirts existed or something. Like, come, we will help you talk about this. I remember one guy, and I want to meet him. I so badly want to meet him from Concept Art Org, because in 2008 I posted something. He's a super famous guy, Kekai, his name is. He's super famous. Kotaki.
Right.
He's super famous, and he wrote me, Darko, this is all super bad. And he was right. He was right. And he said, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start, literally. And he was super honest. And then I asked him, and he wrote me what I should fix. He's a legend. But I don't see him online. I don't know what's happening with him. I didn't see his work for a long time. And people used to communicate, that's the thing, and not allow themselves to comment on everything. And then Facebook arrived, then Instagram arrived, and the communication became lower and lower and lower. And eventually...
I think the comments and the communication just became noise after a point, because now everyone felt the need to voice an opinion. And I'm all for free speech, but I see so many red flags to free speech when it comes to...
It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. I don't allow myself, for example, to talk about things that I don't understand. For example, everybody knows football. I'm not a coach. I don't comment it. I don't know. I don't allow myself to comment that kind of stuff. I'm not an engineer. I ask questions, but I don't comment, because I learned that it's not okay to do that. And free speech is absolutely okay, but it was different mentality. You had to know something.
There was a sense of building credibility for yourself before you said something.
Yes, absolutely. Not everybody was allowed, and I think I wish that returned, but it will never return, because today somebody comes who have no knowledge about anything and they comment on it. They allow themselves to comment. We all do that. I mean, I'm not a saint. I avoid most of the things, but it happens to me also. And the communication got much lower, but also negative communication got much lower. So, for example, today when you communicate, and I'm disgusted by that. It has been like far years. On Instagram, when you want to talk with some girl, I remember that, you send her fire. Like, what does even fire mean? And that's same with art. Like, what does even fire mean? How do you start the communication with fire? And the communication between couples has also been reduced, not just forums, but the communication is at the bare minimum. And it's not only communication, it's opinion. Literally, communications are like you and I are now talking. You invited me as a guest, and I talk. And the other side doesn't talk. Literally, it's like that. I'm having a chance now to talk because I'm a guest. But again, two sides street. That in art disappeared. People are also afraid to insult somebody. Very afraid, like, oh my God, what if I insult this guy? And I remember one designer posted something, it was really, really bad. It was really. And everybody was writing, dope, the best work I've seen. Because the person went from one subject he used to do to other completely, and he was a great artist, but not in that subject. And you live in delusion. You live in delusion, which feeds itself. It's horrible, but it's the way it is. I don't know how to improve yourself now as an artist. I'm honestly telling you that. I don't know, because even on universities, I am starting to have a feeling that they are telling you everything is great. Art is a negative thing. Art is a being very strict and rude to yourself. You suck. You suck. And that's the main sentence. And we don't have it anymore. We don't have... I mean, I'm just expecting what will happen in studios soon. But when art director comes and says this is bad because he earns money from the good quality of work, and he says, and somebody tells he was rude to me, to HR. And that's coming. That's coming. I
It's
don't
already
know.
in play, actually, to be very honest,
I
because
don't know how it will balance itself. I don't know how it will balance itself because at the end of the day, company needs to give good work. I don't know how it will balance itself.
I mean, as you said, like the nature of gatekeepers and what role they play, I feel these issues, I think the homogenizing of gatekeepers actually began with the Facebook forums where everyone started feeling like they are one of those said gatekeepers. Their opinion will actually help in a certain way. But I think it just really started playing this whole thing that anyone who's making a random image which has no sense of understanding of design and aesthetic, but everyone started like cheering it as well. And then there's an entire side who started like shit talking it basically. And then there's a fight between the two sides. It's not even about the artwork anymore. It's just everyone trying to fight for an opinion to be right, or someone trying to,
Absolutely, that's the
yeah,
problem.
it
And
just
I like when people are right, but give me arguments.
right,
Give me
exactly.
arguments.
And it's not even that like opinions, I feel like opinions always change. I mean, you can have an opinion that could be based on your value system, but if you hear from someone else where you really feel that this opinion needs to be evolved to something else, it can change, and it's not a problematic thing. I think a lot of people are very scared to change their opinion, so that's why it's very strict,
Oh
black
yes,
and white.
we saw that with vegans first, and this will sound
Right,
strange, but we saw that with vegans, and that's happening now. Also with steroid use,
right,
many people became vegan,
right,
and for some people to be vegan, it's a special mindset, and it's a
right,
special way of eating where you need to balance the nutrients. It's
right.
not easy. It's hard. It's hard to do it. You need to balance all macro and micronutrients. Your stomach has to work differently, and we have because many people, you have that honeymoon phase where your body cleans
Right,
off toxins and you feel good, and
right,
then if you don't balance, you lose proteins, you lose calcium, you lose B12, you lose and so on. For last 7 years we have people which are lying that they are vegans and they are eating meat
right.
because they're afraid to say that they are doing something wrong. Same with
Right,
steroids. This year, people started to pop up out of nowhere. Everybody is using
right,
steroids all of a sudden, and nobody was using steroids before.
right,
So you're completely right about that. It's not that I have anything against vegetarian or vegan diet, because
of course not.
vegetarian diet is the best diet in the world. To be honest,
Right,
I'm 3 times a week, but I know also what I did to my body when I was on a vegetarian diet, and I
right.
didn't do it good. It can go sideways really fast.
Mhm.
But I had the luck that I accepted it. I'm doing it wrong. Let me redo it. Let me redo it. It's so strange. It's so strange. I need to be right. It's so strange. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, I do feel that it's, I think with everything, there's a cyclic process. Like every time, like for example, the whole woke culture began certainly, which started attacking masculinity,
Yeah.
and then there a lot of people started advocating for masculinity. So there is always this back and forth, which is, I think, which is very interesting about human beings in general. It's not about just taking one side, just observing how
Yeah.
conversations change, even in the like how political climates change, where democracy is something that people always worship, but then they start realizing another form of
Of course.
government suddenly has a lot more to. It's just like certain things bring some new to the table, and then there's a time where people really celebrate that, then eventually a very contrasting feature of another government will come
The
in,
thing
and
that I never comment about, and I try to stay away from it in real life and in
right,
podcasts and everywhere, that's one thing, and that's feminism and man-female relationships. And I will tell you
right,
why.
right,
Because I still didn't see a winner on any side in any argument, because it's a
right,
very dangerous and slippery slope. For example, if I say something now about masculinity,
hmm,
there is somebody immediately bad, let's say bad about masculinity.
right,
There is somebody that will immediately jump, that doesn't have problem with that, but will feel attacked. If I say something
right,
bad about women, there is immediately a jump. Even if a woman is not a feminist, she will get insulted because you're attacking her.
right,
They are all women, and it's a very slippery slope. And I like to think one thing, and that one thing is that you can be female, you can be male, but there are many other components that make you a human.
Of course.
Not everything is black and white. If you say that's what's torturing people in today's world, especially on internet, they grab onto one thing, and immediately if you say it, you are evil or you are good, and that's, for me, that is horrible. I mean, even a killer can come and support something and say that he is up for it. I don't know, and come and say, oh my God, poor children should be protected, while he's killing people on the street. And the internet doesn't have a balance and say, listen guys, this guy is a killer. He did support non-violence on children, but this guy is a killer. Something is wrong here. I don't know what to think. No, they immediately jump to conclusions. He's great. The other half says he's bad because he kills people. For me, he's bad because he kills people, no matter what good he says. Done. So that's always literally like both sides. There is always multiple sides. Good, bad, good, bad. Before, world used to be much simpler, to be honest. It used to be much simpler.
That's true. I think also, I think that happens more, and internet is to be kind of blamed for that, is because the reason why we see too many opinions is because people who run these conversations, they have a lot to profit from these sites being taken. Like today, if I go on Google and if I search that, okay, why is it important to be a vegan? You will see multiple pages about that. But again, if you just write, why is it important to be not a vegan? You will again have the same
such a confusing
amount of
time. Such a confusing time. Such a confusing time. So
there's a pro and there's a for and against case for every single situation at this point.
And you don't know what is the reality and what is the truth, because we removed the gatekeepers and experts. When you had the experts, what expert says is the way it is. He's not all knowing, but he's an expert in that field, and when he speaks or she about that, you know it's right. Today, everybody is an expert. Today, I'm a little bit disgusted by people who give themselves a lot of, for example, medicine, doctors, and people who pretend they are doctors. That's what I really don't like. There are different kind of doctors. There are bad doctors. We are all aware of that. But being a doctor, it takes you a lot of years to become a doctor.
Of course.
And then somebody who read an internet article where if you take magnesium, you will be good, and they pretend that they're a doctor, that's what annoys me a lot.
Yeah.
You're insulting a whole profession, you are insulting by that. But what is interesting, you have a lot of followers. That's what is interesting. You know, it's such a confusing world. I'm glad that I am not growing up in this era, because I literally wouldn't know what to do. I literally wouldn't know. I would be so confused.
You know, what I find interesting is that even though that confusion is there, I still feel that right now the current generation which is growing in that place, they are somewhat smart enough to smell bullshit. I think there was a time where things were too muddy, and now people are starting to finally realize that I feel most people are starting to recognize authenticity in certain people. When someone who doesn't have a pre-established understanding of medical sciences, but they speak about something which is it's like gossip medical news, right? A lot of people immediately catch on that. So, which is a great thing. Yeah, I mean, I think even with the understanding, if I don't know if you've noticed the idea of being spiritually awakened, or at least having an awareness towards the fact that the physical world is one aspect of it. There are other things to it as well.
Much more than that.
Much more than that. And great scientists who are researching, they never say that, oh, just because it's not scientifically proven, that means it doesn't exist. They're saying science is still catching up to understanding these things.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's true.
Yeah, so I think there's that level of, I think we are at a good stage where these conversations are important to have, because it really plays into the idea that there are multiple things yet to come in terms of what is actually happening, what is the right way to do things. And again, it will again break apart. I feel.
Absolutely.
Because we are always struggling, human beings are built to survive.
It's always picking the side. It's always picking the side. But one thing is interesting. When I came to this doctor, the lady, that sentence I remember, and many of her sentences are in my book, because there is a whole chapter with her as the main character goes. When you said about scientists and stuff like that, she said one sentence, and now when you said it, I understand how much it influenced me and how much it led me through life. We spoke about that, and I was disappointed by Western medicine because they didn't find an answer. She's one of the best doctors in Balkan that ever existed. And she cut the story short, she got sick. And Western medicine couldn't help her. And that's how she started to investigate the Eastern medicine.
Right.
And she said, if I was rigid too much,
Right.
I wouldn't find a whole new universe.
Right.
And the second sentence is, remember, East can't work without the West, West can't work without the East. I implement them both. And that's how I approach life. Literal, East can't work without the West. Done.
Yeah.
There is no best. There is just best part of it.
Right.
For me, at least. And that's how I perceive it, because it's always, there was always question, is it 2D better or 3D better? 3D is better, 2D. No, certain aspects of 3D are better, certain aspects of 2D. And I realized that when I started to overlap them. I found a new universe as she did. I started with 3D, then I moved to 2D, then I moved to drawing, and then I started to realize what are pros and what are cons of each. And each one complements each other.
Of course.
And I use them in that way. For me, there was never a best tool. I used many 3D software. I tried many techniques. There is not the best one. There is the one part of it that works the best for me.
Also, at times, I think the limitations of a tool yield interesting results as well, right? I mean, like at a very simple level, like if you've been given two kinds of pencils, right? One is a blunt pencil and one is a chisel one. The kind of a mark that you can make with a blunt pencil will allow you to think of how you can use it as an extension of yourself. And then the chisel one would give a different idea, like like the bluntness for the chisel one is a flaw, and the chiseled aspect of this one is a flaw for the blunt pencil. So it's just, nothing's a negative thing. It's all adding, right?
Yeah, you need to dissect the things. And I will tell you, since I developed diabetes, I'll have to be short because we have to finish soon. We have been talking quite a lot.
I know.
Diabetes, now when I look at it, was super influential for my design, because diabetes requires a lot of precision, calculating, analyzing everything so you can control it and to balance it well. It's same with design. And diabetes played that big part for me, really big part in my life. And why am I saying that? You need to dissect things, literally dissect them. So to get the good, you will get the point. It's same with art. I think it's same with everything, but I'm an artist, so it's same with everything, that things from. So to get the good insulin doses, I need to calculate first morning basal, which is the insulin that goes without eating food. Then I need to calculate the noon, then the night, then I need to calculate the bolus for each food, then I need to calculate how activity affects me, then I need stress, multiple things.
Right.
Same with design. You go from the big to smaller things. And it was incredibly influential on my design and made it learn it easier. Because same thing, big doses, small doses, outer things, big shapes, smaller shapes, function, blah, 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 blah. So you need to dissect it all the time and never be happy. The designer that is happy with his design, something is wrong. Something is wrong with the product, end product, yes. But you need to be very unhappy as you're going with it. That's how it goes.
That's very interesting. It's a great thing that you brought up the aspect of diabetes, because that was my final question for you, because you learned that you have this health condition from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I feel that normally, overarchingly, diabetes goes out as a thing that, okay, when you're eating too much sugar, that's what causes diabetes, but it's more about the inability of your insulin content in your body to break that sugar down. So how did you find out, like how did that develop? Because I guess you were 13 at that point when you found out that you
I have to tell you immediately two things. There is type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes.
Right.
The type 2 diabetes is diabetes that you explained, but it's not from eating too much sugar. It's from unhealthy lifestyle where your pancreas gets clogged and it doesn't process the information, so it needs pills. So you tell it, it releases the insulin. Right. So it's working, the pancreas still. Type 1 diabetes that I developed is an autoimmune condition where beta cells attack each other from the pancreas, and half of the pancreas dies, doesn't produce insulin anymore. And it's not because of unhealthy lifestyle. Nobody knows what is the reason. Most it's a shock. I developed it after bombing of Serbia, 99, but I didn't develop it immediately after bombing. I saw the building explode, but I didn't develop it immediately. Neither did I show symptoms of it immediately. It started to develop in next month, slowly after the bombing.
Are you saying stress and trauma of the situation caused this?
We don't know. That's the thing, because we don't know. If it happened immediately after that, I could say yes because of that. But like this, I can't be certain. But nobody in the family has it. Nobody in the family.
That's
and slowly in the next months, I would start to show symptoms of it. Slowly. Eventually, 8 months later, they would diagnose me. I lost 15 kilos. I was like literally like this. And I was going to toilet every 5 minutes, literally, eating incredible amounts of food and losing weight, tired, the eyes blurry, and so on. All the symptoms. But it wasn't normal for children to get diabetes at that time. And now, 21 years later, 15% of USA has it, type 2. Only 1%, only 2% are 10% out of that is type 1. But what is interesting, when I got diabetes, type 1 was getting everybody older than 40. And type 1 diabetes, the one that I'm getting, were getting people till 30s. Today, everybody gets everything. You have babies that have type 2. You have old people that have type 1. Nobody knows what's happening. And it's growing rapidly.
Oh, that speaks to the idea that we really need to take control of how we go about with our daily lives, because I guess stress has a big part to play in all of this. I mean, even our job, like the artistic profession, has a lot of stress attached to it. And if you don't take control of those things, it can really go out of hand. I mean, I've seen it on my personal life as well. When I realize that I'm not being able to manage work in the right way, I'm not able to pull at least a certain level of boundary for myself to stop and recover. Like, it's the whole, work, and then you recover from it, and then you go back to work again. If you lose out on that balance, it shows through your body quite a bit.
Absolutely. Everybody needs to go through that. Everybody needs to have a burnout, and that's how it goes. I haven't met an artist that didn't have a burnout, a successful one. I haven't met a successful one. I wish it wasn't like that, but we have to learn it. Art is, that's the thing. Everybody thinks art is fun. Art is fun, but it's one of the hardest professions in the world. Deadlines, working with clients, you are putting your piece of soul on the canvas. Nobody does that. I mean, who does that? It's super hard, and everybody has to have a crash. And I'm not joking now when I say this, because it's completely normal, but also everybody needs to learn how to stop that crashes. Because you can have them as much as you please. In 20s you can, in 30s you can, in 40s, okay. Later it doesn't work. It doesn't work. The body doesn't recover that much. And it's part of our job to learn because there is one more thing. When you're a freelancer, you never think, if you're a hardworking person, you never think you're working enough. You're at home, you always think better. If you're in studio, it's a completely different. I remember when I went to one studio and I was there for a week, I was like, wow, these people work much less than me, because I had no clue how much I was working. I was giving a tempo 100, proving to everybody. I was like, but it wasn't good, because I would have a burnout later. And I wasn't aware of neither. And when you're in the studio, other people work, you get up, you talk with them, you go home. It's much calmer, and it's the way it should be. But when you're a freelancer, you don't understand that. You don't understand that.
I mean, I think it's a good disclaimer for anyone who'll be watching this as to how much keeping that balance between work. I think your work gets better, your ability to be creative on the job gets better once you know what your limitations are health-wise, whether it be physical health, whether it be mental health, all of it. I think all of those, the more you can bring yourself to that centered zone, it allows you to create more.
You need to learn how to balance it. And now, unfortunately, I need to go because
course,
we
of course.
prolonged it. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm so glad that we spoke for this long. I mean, that has always been my intention, just to have, like, I don't like conversation which end after an hour, because I'm like, at the end of the first hour, you just start the juicy part of the conversation.
True.
But I got to learn a lot from you. Just one final question.
Thank
Simple
you.
question.
I really enjoyed. Tell me.
Right. Final question. What do you want people to remember you for?
Absolutely, for Insight 44 and for great
Insight
design.
44.
When I started making Insight 44, people were saying me that I'm too egoistic because I want to become famous with it.
Right.
But that was always my plan. I don't want to be just some artist. I want to be a really big name. And that was always my plan since 8 years ago when I had a crash. And that's why I work so hard. I want to prove to people one thing: diabetes can't stop me, borders can't stop me, tools can't stop me, nothing can stop me. If you decide to do something, you will do it if you want it. And that's my life mission, to give not hope to people. That became boring to me. I just want to give that the question mark pops us on your head. Well, if this guy could do it, maybe I can.
Right.
Just if he did it, maybe I can. And that was my plan always. But always I would love to drive a Ferrari, that's for sure.
Right.
but the point is always I wanted for Insight 44. That was my main. Maybe I'll do some great designs after it, but Insight 44 was always. Will it happen? I don't know. Everything is in God's hands. I hope he will like it. We will see where it will go. This was my plan. I don't know. I will go with the flow, whatever happens. That's how I see life.
I really hope Inside 44 like it really picks up. I think it's a fantastic thing, and it's so close to you. And I will put all the links in the bio for this one, and I hope everyone goes and checks it out. And I really want to see a physical copy of the books as well.
Soon. I also want. I can't wait anymore. I can't literally. Sometimes I told you, I wake up and I want to kick the book outside of the window, literally. Take the hard drive and kick it as strong as I can.
Wow, that's really cool. Thank you so much, Darko. This was amazing. I hope to see you in person again.
We will see each other for sure somewhere soon. For sure. Just depends where. Soon, you know that everything has started. Finally, hate Corona, hate it that I sat at home with it. And I am sure that we will meet somewhere. Just depends where.
I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.